Zone Z contains some of Sinaloa's best sicarios, highly trained, highly armed, and ready for war. They've been involved in several deadly gunfights with CJNG all across Mexico, however, in particular, in the state of Zacatecas, a state where, in 2021, the homicide rate raised by 20%, and much
British people be like homicide instead of homicide.
conflict.
You'll say modern warfare.
Modern warfare.
The main battlefield for this conflict essentially is for the production of synthetic drugs.
Call of Duty Black Ops.
Zacatecas is a major puzzle piece to control the drug route.
Modern warfare.
Imagine going on a British. They don't know you speak British, but you try to speak British.
Yeah, if I go to Britain, I do that. Bro, I'm gonna go to Britain one day and I'm gonna be like, I was pretending to speak like British, bro.
But they don't know. They think you.
Modern warfare.
Running from a grey Mazda van parked haphazardly outside the governor's office next to a large Christmas tree in Zacatecas. Authorities found
Look at that.
inside the vehicle, all of which had various signs of torture. According to Mexican press reports, the suspect was linked with CJNG. Despite rumors of a truce between the two cartels over the festive period,
Two more.
late December,
This fucking duck won't get shot.
Was incredibly brutal in Zacatecas. When it comes to CJNG, as we know,
yeah, just spam the fuck out of the zombies.
Outwardly display their violence,
Reload gun.
so that the world can see,
Fuck.
and more importantly, so that their rivals can see. Essentially using the shopping
I think I did it.
to break their
Did I?
enemies' will.
Let me see.
As this war has
The thing should
progressed
be on the
last few
floor.
months, and as I've been
Or did I
following it
fuck
in real
up?
time, I've covered a couple of these cases.
These zombies are like right in front of where it. Oh yeah, it's right here. Okay, so I did it. Okay, so now we can just go to the hiring spot. Let's just go to the hiring spot now.
I literally have no ammo, bro.
Oh, remember, we'll be at the box. We'll be at the box.
There's going to be a lot more shocking content coming out of this conflict, in particular from CJNG, because we know that is how they like to get down. They love to display their violence on social media to create a narrative to the public and also to spread fear amongst their rivals. That is one of their tactics, ultra-violence. And unfortunately, so far, it's been extremely successful. Honestly, the relationship between CJNG and social media...
I got the 1911.
Not only do they use it to scare their rivals and display violence...
Like an AK, bro. What the hell?
New recruits by going on TikTok, flexing, etc. They've even been accused of recruiting teenagers on online video games. So when it comes to CJNG, more so than other cartels, you can tell they are really kind of trying to appeal to a certain demographic of younger people to essentially try to groom and recruit them to fight their war
Jack in the Box.
and make their money.
Oh my god.
It's round 4.
Essentially, they're promising these young teenagers the world
Jack in the Box right
to join their cartel. Ultimately,
oh, I'm gonna spawn in the double point spam.
Which not too many people talk about. They've definitely ramped up their social media game in the last 12, 18 months, especially since this war has really started to kick off, which makes you think, is there a correlation there? But nevertheless, in the last day or so, as of recording, a brutal new video has emerged on social media.
The blunderbuss? Why the fuck are they giving me the blunderbuss, bro?
And once again, it serves as
they're not spawning from behind us. I think it's just this window.
Between CJNG and the Sinaloa cartel.
Like literally, they're not.
It's only a short video,
I'm watching behind
around
us.
13 seconds long, and it appears to have been filmed on an app such as Snapchat or something similar. The video opens up and you see 2 dead bodies. One of the bodies is pretty much out of shot, but you can see the feet. But you can see the other body in totality, and essentially it shows that this is the...
Bro, they're literally not spawning, bro. What is this?
Followed by executions. You can see that the body in shot has been disemboweled. Essentially, the victim's chest has been completely cut open, with one big vertical cut going down the middle of his chest, and also a horizontal cut going across his chest.
We're 5 minutes in, we're round 6. We just hit 5 minutes in.
victim,
got this.
and he's got what appears to be one of the victim's organs in his hand. Now, according to the Twitter feed where I saw this video,
I'm gonna start saving up my money for perks now. But let's go get our perks at the same time so we could grab the same perks and then just boot back over here. So let's both get enough points.
Out of the organ, so he's chowing down, and then he tries to put the victim's organ inside his own mouth. And essentially that is where the video ends. It's a short one, but extremely brutal. And on the video, there's actually a caption in Spanish, and roughly it translates to the following.
How come no wisdom are spawning?
I mean, it's still early round.
Of CJNG. So the victim appears to be a Sinaloa cartel member working with Operation MZ, and yeah, this is how his demise transpired. So although short and extremely brutal video, and
oh, I'm gonna spam my jacks. Oh, never mind.
To show the lengths in which CJNG are willing to go to get their message across,
yeah, and the round is fast,
and strike fear into their enemies' hearts. Interestingly, this is the second.
We are 6 minutes in and we're round 8.
Obviously, most notably, there is the video by the name of Sponsored by Adidas, which is incredibly brutal. But after watching that video, I did wonder to myself, is the whole CJNG cannibalism thing a little bit overplayed, a little bit over-exaggerated? Obviously, we've heard the rumours of CJNG Sicario trainees having to taste the flesh of captives as part of their training, and honestly, that's never been verified, and I did wonder whether the whole cannibalism thing was a little overplayed. Now the second video I've seen from these guys involving cannibalism, so maybe it's more common than I originally thought. Who knows? It doesn't bear thinking about, really. And yeah,
they could even spawn out the window.
Bro, not even
extremely brutal video. And the
wait,
sad
what?
thing is, I'm not surprised that I made this video, because when I made my original 2 videos covering this war, the spoon video and also the other chainsaw video, I said in those videos that more than likely we're going to be getting a lot more graphic content coming out of this war. And
your voice is like lagging right now.
You know, nothing's really changed, and the war's still raging.
Let's start getting our perks. Let's start getting our perks.
So,
I'm gonna throw a jack in a box.
Again, hopefully it gets better soon, but I can't see it.
Let's start getting our perks. I'm gonna go down over here to get quick revive first. I'm gonna go get stamina. Boom, boom. Okay, yeah, I can easily do the rotation over here.
Particularly in Zacatecas, but we'll see what happens. But if there's any developments in this war, I'll try my best to cover it. But anyway, this was just a quick bonus video. Still expect the regular Friday upload this week. I just wanted to get this out there because it is recent, it is current, and ultimately it is what this channel is known for. Once again guys, thank you for the support, it's much appreciated. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, if you can enjoy this sort of content. Okay. And as always, stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Okay, I have all my perks now. Oh, I just need to get armor. That's the one thing I forgot about getting. Which, I mean, it's 500 since I haven't gotten armor at all. Oh, let's start doing the pack-a-punch thing.
Oh my god!
Oh, is it the flamethrower? Flamethrower?
Yep.
Come to the pack-a-punch area. Let's spam him with the free fire. And also, because I come over here, like where I'm at, so I can also fuel up this the pack-a-punch. Oh my god! I'm spamming free fire at him right now. Fuck. I'm not trying to lose armor. I'm not trying to lose armor. I killed him. Okay, we are 9 minutes 30 seconds in. We're around 11. Come over here so we could get fuel up this thing. Okay, it's over. I fueled it up. Okay, so we could go back to the room now.
Another one. I literally just heard a flamethrower.
Yeah, same. I also heard a flamethrower. That's why I was looking around.
That seems like I that went down, bro.
Fuck. I'm losing all my armor right now. Fucking hell, bro. I lost all my armor. I'm gonna have to go buy armor.
This video was sponsored by Surfshark. Surfshark is my go-to for anonymity and web security. They have RAM-only servers, which means that if anything were to happen where those servers got raided, lost when they tried to pull it. On top of that, you are no longer reachable on Surfshark. Well, typically Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus only gives you access to shows and movies.
Bro, I just fucking traded in this gun.
Well, that's because you're region locked. Surfshark uses
I got the D aisles, really? No! Bro! He's attacking me when I freaking... I threw a jack in the box and he still attacks me. Now I need to buy armor again.
At checkout is surfshark.deal/play. You're gonna get 83% off. And
we're around 13 and we're 12 minutes
in.
in.
A month for possibly the best VPN service available in the market right now. That's right, 83% off and 3 months free. Just use code PLAGUED at surfshark.deal/plagued. And get yourself hooked up with Surfshark. Get anonymous, stay safe, and have fun.
I'm throwing a jack. I'm gonna go to the basement real quick, see if the thing could get charged up now. Yeah, it could get charged up. Let's go to the basement and charge this up. So then we get Pack-a-Punch open.
Well, because my kids are watching Cruella downstairs on Disney Plus. Well, I mean, some of them are with the wife. And
13 minutes in, we're around 14.
You know, a heartbreaker.
Perfect. I'm gonna grab that.
And be like, Daddy's gotta watch something
what
where a guy gets his heart eaten. Yeah, I figured we touch upon some lighthearted topics. Alright, enough dad puns. We're about to watch some terrible shit, but I'd like to talk about it as well. Now, this one's often called sponsored by Adidas, and I know Disturbed Reality touched upon it briefly.
Okay, now we have Pack-a-Punch open.
Well for a long time.
We will go back upstairs.
I know that we have been dabbling in some of the most
ooh, there's a nuke down there.
So again, I would like to just remind you all that there's a little more sunshine and rainbows in the world when we turn our eyes down to, well, Mexico, to the cartels. And there's not a whole lot of cartels that do it better as far as brutality and grotesque actions go than the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or the CJNG. These guys are famous for a lot of videos, okay? Including, right? No, not the Guerrero flaying, but the Ghost Rider video. Yes. Fun times. This one's not.
I'm gonna go Pack-a-Punch. Actually, no. I'm gonna wait, and I'm gonna Pack-a-Punch 2 guns until, and I'm gonna keep them until I get all the Tesla guns.
Gets wrapped up in the wrong crowd.
Okay, I'm gonna go Pack-a-Punch 2 guns right now.
Yeah, he gets fucking murked by the cartel. It's really bad. So, the exact reasons are unknown. I cannot find anything really in regards to this. In fact, the video itself is actually rather difficult to find unless you know people. I don't know why. Even on just your regular gore sites, it's just a little hard to turn up, or maybe it's under different names, but it's called sponsored by Adidas, most likely because of the metric fuck ton of Adidas shoes that are in it. Apparently the CJNG really like Adidas. Can't blame them, I actually wear it myself. Very comfy, very stylish shoe. Not one I would like to get blood on, but you know, I'm not that.
Okay, I'm coming to you.
CJNG are no strangers to violence, though, like all jokes aside. They're one of the most brutal cartels out there, and they really, really like to show it. And part of, I don't want to call it an initiation, but at some point during your career with these guys, which is part of them. And usually that's done on camera and then uploaded as shock value. And it's not the first time this has happened. It's actually kind of common with them. They're called the Cannibal Cartel by some people, and it's just part of their gimmick. However,
okay, round 16 and we're 15 minutes in.
The leader is actually in this one, and he cannibalizes part of this guy's heart. But
the fuck?
I would like to correct you on something. All of you who think you know this video, that was not the man's heart. In fact, well, I really don't want to insult this man out of fear that he might eat me. Anatomy-wise, none of you are very smart. And I don't mean the cartel, I mean you who watch this. That was actually part of his left lung. The heart is located behind the lungs, guys. Yeah. So, in short, what happens in this video is they step on this guy's head, and how about we just watch it? You wanna watch it with me? You wanna watch some messed up stuff with me? You wanna go down to the comments and check out the Patreon and stuff like that? You wanna figure out how to win $1,000? All you gotta do is join the Discord. Now, you can do that in a variety of ways. You can do it with Patreon, you can hit me up on an email, get an invite during one of my streams, or, you know, just show me you're a content creator and things like that, get yourself an invite. Very easy. I'm going to be setting that up here soon, because disregard my Patreon part in the last video. You can't have giveaways on Patreon. So we're not doing that there, so no big deal. But we can do it on Discord. I'm going to do it for everybody. That way you don't have to be a patron to be.
They're not even coming out the window, bro.
And at the end of the year, what's going to happen is I'm going to give you $1,000. Not everybody who does it, but just anybody who reacts to something in the Discord. It's going to be a big giveaway. It doesn't matter your age, your creed, or where you're from. I'll PayPal you $1,000 at the end of the year. I don't think that's a bad deal. I just want to draw everybody back into the community that we kind of stagnated for a while during my move, and it's been very stressful. But all that fun plugging aside, by the way, I'm going on Twitch too. Make sure you check my updated links down below. Enough of all this stuff. I know why you sick fucks are all here. You're here to call me a creep, but watch people die. I see you deflecting your insecurities, you psychopath. You budding little serial killer. I bet you get a 10-buck body.
Shut the fuck up. Just hurry up. Start explaining the video.
Man was fucking ugly. Don't even. Oh god, you can see all the squishy parts. That's gross. I don't understand what he's saying. But they are currently trying to rip into his chest cavity. By the way, he's fully conscious. They're digging around some meat flaps. You can see some.
I'm gonna throw my jacks.
Parts of his perforated lung coming through.
Oh my god! I threw a jack! Why are you still hitting me, you bitch?
Oh my god, they got Adidas caps on and everything. I never paid attention to that.
Fuck, bro. I lost a piece of armor because of that shit.
He just straight up ate it. And you can see his lungs gasping out as the man goes into shock. Now, this type of death... Oh wow, there's multiple people recording this. You guys got personal POV of this. Oh my god, you can see his lungs flopping through the wound. Oh, they're just... Oh, and the video ends right there. There's many things this guy could have done and couldn't have done to get here, if you will.
Okay, we're around 18 or 19 minutes in, so now the rounds are slowing down a bit.
On the fleshy bits, and people perceive this as them eating part of the guy's heart, really, because it's on the left side and it's a red piece of flesh. Now, anatomy time, guys. Behind the ribs, behind the lungs, is the heart. Yeah. So, possibly the worst part about this, and in my opinion, this video viscerally is a little worse than Pumpkin. Maybe it was a bit of a stretch to claim that. I made that claim on a Patreon post. After watching it again, I don't really feel that that's the case. However, I do know for a fact, at least there are videos worse than Funky Town as far as shock value, and you know, I have one up my sleeve. Maybe we can cover that soon. It does involve something sad. So, just preparing you for your favorite creep on the internet to show you death. Fucking sensitive. I love it though.
20 minutes.
For those out there that like to stick by me and understand that we all like to look at the dark thing.
Bro. yeah, I forgot he spawned in. I have 1 armor.
Now this is satanic. This is a very generic.
I have to get armor now.
Heavy metal music. The rock show mission Fest 1 is being staged at the Jackson Optimus Sports Arena.
Bitch
It was
slap.
originally supposed to happen in Detroit. This which has some people in Jackson concerned that groups promote satanic worship.
Early in the 1980s, the Satanic Panic had started mainly in the United States and eventually into other countries throughout the late 90s. Some argue that it's still going on to this day. It was a moral panic that started due to rumors spreading across country that people were performing satanic rituals. And during the 80s, American pop culture was obsessed with the occult and satanic imagery, which led to many people believing that magic, heavy metal music, and role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons would infiltrate the minds of the youth, leading them to worship the devil. Some parents believed devil worshippers would roam around the streets looking for human sacrifice, doing drugs, and selling it to kids. The problem is none of these claims were able to be backed up since there was nothing to prove that these events had ever occurred, until the case of a teenager who went by the name the Acid King.
Fucking hell.
In the quiet suburbs of New York's Northport community on Long Island, Ricky Castle was born. He was named after his father, Richard Dick Castle, who was a well-respected history teacher and football coach at Cold Spring Harbor High School. His mother, Lynn Castle, was a teacher as well. To avoid any confusion, I will be referring to his father by his middle name. Ricky's parents were children, and Ricky would be the oldest, as he had 3 younger sisters. For some time, Dick and Lynn would describe Ricky to be the greatest kid in the world, and Dick believed his son had a bright future ahead of him. He would describe Ricky as a model child and a young athlete. As a young boy, he would wake up early in the morning to play football with his friends, and occasionally with his father. Though Ricky's bright future would soon start to fade away when he started the 6th grade, he would slowly become rebellious and started to smoke marijuana at the age of 11. And this was just the start of his interest in drugs.
Yep, rounds are slowing down now. I'm gonna go pack a punch this MG real quick.
I got the whipsaw.
Okay, nice.
When Ricky was 13, he befriended a boy by the name of Jimmy Troiano in the 7th grade. The two met at school during football practice. Jimmy was someone who was a promising athlete as well, but was also rebellious just like Ricky. You see, Jimmy had been in juvenile hall before for almost a year and already had experience with using and selling acid. The two hang out quite often, experimenting drugs together. It started out with smoking marijuana to later graduating to stronger drugs like mescaline, LSD, and PCP. Eventually, the two would begin skipping class and football practice to meet up and do drugs. A classmate of Ricky's remembers him walking into art class and began drawing a dragon where he kept mentioning that the dragon was moving. Though this would just be the beginning. As his use of drugs increased, so did his anger problems. And during a football game, Ricky was ejected for an illegal hit he did on the opposing quarterback, and Ricky's father was angry. Now, I mentioned Ricky would play football as a kid, but Jimmy stated that Ricky hated football. He says it's because Ricky never liked the sport at all, and always made comments saying, "I hate this sport, I hate this game." Jimmy also added that Ricky only played football because his father would force him to. Over the years, the two would continue to use drugs and get high together. Ricky eventually stopped caring about school and football, and would ultimately drop out of high school when he turned 16. Ricky became well known for not only his use of hallucinogenic drugs, but selling them as well. Because of his reputation, the younger teens had looked up to him because he was always in possession of acid, and depending on his mood, he would allow these young teens to take a hit of his drugs for free. This is when he would begin to call himself the Acid King, and would start obsessing over the idea of devil worship and the occult. His former classmates have stated that Ricky would hang out a lot at cemeteries, where he would smoke 10 bags of PCP so that he can get in touch with the devil himself and chant, "Satan, Satan, Satan." According to someone, they stated that
okay, I just threw it.
Ricky was of the devil. When he was on acid, he'd go back into the dark woods, up in Estequia, and he would talk to the devil. He said the devil came in the form of a tree, which sprouted out of the ground and glowed. And when he tried questioning Ricky about it, Ricky simply responded that he didn't like talking about it, as people thought he was nuts. Ricky would show up at a library, picking up books on Satanism, wanting to learn more on the subject. Jimmy has said there were occasions where he'd be walking down the street and hear Ricky yelling out, "Hell Satan," when walking by certain places. His obsession with Satanism didn't come from reading books like the Satanic Bible, which he had expressed interest in, or people who claimed to be Satanists. Instead, it came from his love of rock and roll and heavy metal music. A former classmate had mentioned that he would begin to notice a change in Ricky's appearance, from having short hair and always smiling, to having long hair and always wearing concert t-shirts. One of the popular spots Ricky and his friends would hang out a lot was the gazebo in the park down by the waterfront. Ricky's behavior would get worse, and there was no sign of him getting any better. It was unbearable to his parents. Ricky's father had made a statement about his son's behavior, saying he became insubordinate to his teachers, then joined in a house burglary, and began to get in trouble with the police. Ricky had told his father, "I enjoy the fantasy world of drugs. You can't stop me. I love drugs." It would scare his parents when they found out that he would write songs about Satan and would open up drug deals. He'll say things like, "Mom, I'm going down to get a pizza fast. I'll be back for dinner." He even told his mother that suicide is the ultimate high. He even went as far to put ketchup on his arm and called his mother, yelling at her, "See what you made me do?" And as her mother runs to check on Ricky, he would laugh when she sighs in relief when she realizes that it's not blood. They would often kick him out of the house whenever they were fed up with their son's behavior. Ricky would then occasionally live on the streets, cars, local woods, garages, backyards, and houses of friends. Ricky would discuss with a friend that he wanted to start a cult and eventually would create a loosely organized cult that referred to themselves as the Knights of the Black Circle. The cult had 4 members.
You said what?
Ricky, Jimmy, Albert Quinones, and Gary Lowers. A local by the name of Dan Carson stated, "They used to take animals down here and cut them up, burn them, and stuff like that." He goes on to say that he believes that Ricky was the biggest influence in the group. The younger teens who looked up to Ricky.
I'm fucking done with this game, bro. I'm done. I'm done.
But the kids didn't care about any of that. They really only looked
I literally have no
he was
armor.
the only one who sold acid very cheap.
What is this?
His whole obsession with Satanism
Like,
was irrelevant to them. Since Ricky wasn't living at home, he never reached out to his parents except for 2 reasons. 1, he was in trouble with the law, or 2, he was extremely ill.
There's 3 of them!
In the late fall of 1983, when Ricky was 16, he got arrested for digging into a colonial-era grave to steal a skull to be used in some sort of ritual.
Oh my god.
He was held in jail for a day or 2 and was then released. He wouldn't be charged until the following year in April. And at this time, Jimmy
why are all my guns invisible, bro?
and was sentenced to 8 months. Ricky's parents had tried to help him
This game is so
and sent their son to a
glitchy.
drug rehab program at South Oaks Hospital, but to no avail. According to a local, he had talked to Ricky shortly after being released from the hospital. He says that Ricky got out by bullshitting the doctors. When he went in, they believed he worshipped Satan and shit. And he told doctors that he was fine, that he was gonna go back to school and doesn't believe in Satan anymore. And he bullshit the doctors so much they finally believed him and they let him go. Another local has said that he ran away from the hospital. When she saw him at the train station, she noticed Ricky's hair was now red to avoid being found. She asked Ricky, "What's going on?" And he goes, "No way are they gonna lock me up. I'm not crazy." I was like, "I never said you were crazy, but maybe you need help with drugs." He said, "I do not." And then he started yelling, coming closer. I talked my way out of it. I think Ricky stopped living in 8th grade. In April of 1984, Ricky had a court hearing, so he would go back to his home where he would shower. His father wasn't thrilled seeing his son there, but he was nice enough to still drive Ricky to court.
I got the bloodthirst, bro.
Ricky was dropped off near a convenience store where he would ask his father for some money. His father declined and Ricky would kick his car, leaving a dent on the passenger side door. This is when Dick had disowned his son and banned Ricky from his home. He told Ricky to never come back nor to ever contact him or his family. With this, Ricky's use of drugs would only further increase.
You know, best. Best friend. I'm always there for him. Always
several other friends of theirs attended a party in the woods late at night, Ricky being the Acid King and brought PCP with them. As the party went on, Ricky would eventually pass out from getting extremely high. As Ricky was passed out, his friend Gary wanted more PCP. So as Ricky was still unconscious, Gary stole 10 packets of PCP out of Ricky's pockets. When everyone woke up the next morning, someone informed Ricky that they saw Gary stealing the rest of his PCP while he was asleep. Ricky became furious and confronted Gary, demanding he either gives him back or pays him back. Gary refused that he had stolen any drugs from Ricky, but Ricky didn't believe him, so he had beaten him to a pulp. Gary would give Ricky back 5 packets of PCP. Since Gary only returned 5 out of the 10 he stole, this meant he owed Ricky $50, and Gary promised he would borrow the money he owed from his parents to pay him back. But Gary wouldn't keep his promise, and Ricky wasn't going to let this go. For the next few days, Ricky would continue to beat up Gary. The problem was that Ricky didn't even care about getting his money or drugs back. To him, this was all just to prove a point. Locals have said that Gary was afraid of Ricky and always seemed getting chewed up and constantly getting his ass kicked. In one instance, someone saw Gary come out from behind a church. His jacket was ripped, cuts on one side of his face with blood dripping down. Another stated that she fixed his wounds up one time, his black eye and bloody nose. Gary would tell her that Ricky was an asshole and that he bought a knife to protect himself because Ricky had told Gary that next time he was going to do more and it won't just be a black eye. A month later, Ricky was starting to get sick as he had pneumonia, so he went back to the home of his parents and asked for help. Despite what his father said of never coming back, Ricky's parents couldn't resist seeing their child in pain, so Ricky was sent to the Long Island Jewish Hospital. While Ricky remained in there, his parents wanted to have him emotionalized. They explained to the doctors about the grave digging incident, his daily use of PCP and other hallucinogens, suicide attempts / jokes, and his threatening behaviors. The doctors didn't believe there was anything wrong with him. They said Ricky was antisocial, but was neither psychotic nor dangerous, so they let him go.
Okay, I'm gonna have to rotate.
Now that Ricky was back out again, he was still not done with Gary.
Okay. Run.
On June 19, Jimmy was released from jail after serving 8 months.
Oh my god, coming from that side.
The three were planning to go to the Aztecia wood to get high, but what confused both Jimmy and Albert was when Ricky decided to invite Gary along. They believed maybe Ricky had finally let go of the whole drug incident. The four headed their way deep into the secluded woods at 8 p.m. They made a fire, and according to Jimmy, they took somewhere between 30 to 40 hits of PCP and LSD altogether. Now, these four have hung out in the woods at night before, but this night, though, was a bit different than the others. Reason was there were 3 crows that would circle around right above the teenagers' campfire. Ricky noticed this, and keep this in mind, as it will be important later on. As the night went on, the fire would slowly die out.
Yo, you run fast as hell doing this!
Gary would refuse to throw his entire jacket into the fire, but agreed to cut off
that's dope.
And later his
look, bro, with the ice pick, look how fast I run.
Ricky suggested to cut Gary's hair to keep the fire alive. Gary would refuse, but Ricky didn't listen. He didn't want to hear a no from Gary. So Ricky got up and Jimmy held Gary
down.
This
is literally like the sprinting in Modern Warfare.
The pocket knife he carried. Once cutting it, he threw it onto the fire, and Gary said, "I'm getting bad vibes that you want to hurt me." Ricky replied, "Hurt you? I don't want to hurt you. I want to kill you." Ricky immediately pounced on Gary and bit him on the neck, then proceeded to stab him somewhere between 17 to 36 times.
Are you fucking kidding me? I just bought armor and then I have to lose a piece of armor.
To Gary, "Say you love me." Gary wouldn't comply to his request. Instead, he would shout back, "I love my mother." Each stab, Ricky would tell him to say it, but Gary never does. Once Gary was dead, Ricky would gouge out his eyes. Some people believe Ricky had gouged his eyes as some sort of satanic ritual, and Ricky had said that the crow is above God. He believed Satan manifested as a crow, and the call was a sign that the devil was pleased of his doing. And where was Jimmy and Albert during all of this? Well, we don't really know. You'll see why. For 2 days, nobody knew about the murder of Gary for 2 reasons. One, his body was deep into the secluded woods, so the chances of him being found were slim. And 2, He was a frequent runaway, so nobody really questioned about his whereabouts. But good old Ricky couldn't keep this to himself. He would later start bragging to his friends that he killed Gary as a sacrifice to Satan, and Jimmy would tell him to stay quiet about it as he just wants to forget about it and move on. But Ricky didn't listen. According to a local by the name of Rich, he says he saw Ricky one night, and Ricky told him that he killed Gary, but Rich didn't believe him. The next night, Rich decides to see the supposed dead body because he thought Ricky was bullshitting as usual. As they head into the woods, he tells Ricky,
I'm dead, bro.
What the hell did you kill? A fucking cat? And then Ricky points and says, there it is. Rich finally saw Gary's lifeless body covered with a thick pile of maggots and leaves on top. Rich turned around and quickly ran off. He says Ricky seemed calm about the whole thing. As he meets with him back at the park, Ricky tells him, see, I told you. And when asked why he did it, he responds with, for kicks. For 2 weeks since the brutal killing, Ricky would continue to brag and show his friends Gary's body. But as days went by, both Jimmy and Ricky's paranoia would slowly increase. They returned back into the woods to move Gary's body in a shallow grave. His body was badly decomposed, and as they tried to move him, Gary's head came off. Afterwards, the thrill of the murder would start to fade for Ricky, and he was back to being bored. Jimmy and Ricky would leave Northport and plan a road trip to head to California. They planned on making a career by selling drugs. The next day, on July 1st, a 16-year-old girl would call the police to report of Gary's body, but the officer who answered the call didn't see anyone by the name of Gary being reported missing. When the officer asked what the girl's name was, she quickly hung up. The officer simply dismissed it as some prank call. At this point, Ricky and Jimmy were 160 miles away from their hometown before they needed more money to be able to progress their road trip. They sold some mescaline and bought a junker car for $50. Back in Northport, on July 4th, 3 days after the call, the police decided to go to the woods to look for Gary, as they were confirmed by his mother that she hasn't seen Gary in a while. She even stated that she once got a phone call by someone with this eerie voice saying, "You'll never see your son again because I just killed him." Police used 4 canines and eventually found a pile of bones, a denim vest, pants, and a pair of shoes. Since his body was out in the woods for a little over 2 weeks, his body had been completely drained of blood, and his face was practically gone. As police discovered what was left of Gary, Ricky and Jimmy decided to drive back home to party with their friends on 4th of July. The two partied, got high on acid, and eventually both would sleep in their vehicle. The next morning, police got a call of a suspicious vehicle. When an officer arrived, he noticed it was both Jimmy and Ricky asleep in their vehicle, so the officer called for backup since they were considered as highly dangerous. Backup arrived and arrested the 2 teenagers. They were still sluggish as they were still high from the drugs, but as they started to sober up, Ricky went back to his old, cocky ways.
Who the fuck is a zombie, bro?
Ricky first told police that he didn't know anything about the killing and that he hasn't seen Gary in some time. But later,
I get the same gun, bro.
To the murder, and the chief who interviewed him said he sounded so proud of what he had done, stating he got what he deserved. Ricky would sign a confess statement that he did the killing and Jimmy played no role into the murder. At least, that's what he told Jimmy. Because in reality, Ricky was lying.
Bro, the bone saw, bro.
This. I was holding him on the ground and Jimmy...
Are you fucking...
...to cut his throat. I then took out my knife and
I have to go buy armor again.
The knife went all the way in. Somehow, he got away and ran through the woods. I caught him and brought him back to where the fire was. I dropped my knife when I chased him. He gave me the knife and I stabbed Gary in the back a whole bunch of times.
I need to go buy armor. I need to go buy armor.
Gary back in the woods. We started covering him with leaves and he sat up. I bugged out, started to stab him in the face. I didn't count how many times. I'm not really sure. I don't know what I said, but I said a whole bunch of satanic things. Now this story went everywhere, and as you can imagine, the public were frightened, especially because of this murder linking to Satanism. But police didn't call this case satanic, but rather a drug-related murder. Ricky had seen himself on the news that night, and everyone in jail knew what Ricky was in there for. Jimmy says Ricky was scared because he didn't know what the inmates might feel about him killing in the name of Satan. Gary's dad talked to the news, wanting to distance his son from Satanism.
My son was not involved in any drugs, and he was fearful of this kid, Ricky Castle, because he had been acquainted with him maybe at a previous occasion from school, and apparently also after school. So he was fearful.
No!
And it is my belief that he was abducted. That they
Oh my
were
God.
just waiting for him. They saw. My
I got the
son
regular
as
Tesla
their
gun, but
victim.
now I need to buy armor again.
And abducted him somehow or other.
As the night went on, Ricky started to feel pressured, and within less than 48 hours, Ricky grabbed himself by himself. This now meant that Ricky's statement was useless and inadmissible. Albert had agreed to testify against Jimmy in return for immunity. Jimmy had signed 2 confessions that he later recanted. People thought this would be an open and shut case, but there was just one big problem.
Eyes were cut out in what county police say was a satanic ritual about a devil-worshipping cult of Christians.
Jimmy's attorney, Eric Nyberg, talked to Jimmy asking his version of what had happened. He told Eric a strong, convincing story. They arranged another meeting and asked Jimmy again his version of the story. Again, Eric says it was a strong, believable story. And the problem? It was different than the first one, and he did it again a third time. So Eric decided to take him back to the scene of the crime, and again, a different yet very believable story. Eric calls him out on it and asks why is he constantly changing his story. Jimmy replied, Mr. Nyberg, when the trees are melting and the stars are racing across the sky, it's hard to remember what happened. This is when Eric had a plan and knew how to win this case. The trial would begin a year later. In court, prosecutors brought Albert on stand and made him tell his side of the story. Albert's version was that Jimmy was the one who held Gary down while Ricky repeatedly stabbed him, and this was supported by medical examiners.
Something like
Oh my God!
finger cutting type wound,
I'm dead.
Going up and down the back.
There's another one! There's another one!
In the facial
Spam.
area, something like 7 or 8 wounds there. One was a little lower down, just above the upper teeth.
Maximo.
But
I saw
mostly they
Maximo.
were in the
Yeah, there's Maximo.
This pattern of wounds certainly would be what you'd expect if someone were being held immobile and then someone else were doing the stabbing, who's right there, just going up and down. But
Now Deshaun calls me, I'm done. Yo.
Did you call me?
Yeah, I called you because I was gonna ask you if you want to do a high round with me. To do a high round with me and Anthony.
A what?
A high round.
I'm literally spamming with Free Fire.
Let's do it at 8.
8? No, that's too late.
So what?
That's too late.
That is not too late.
Yes, it is. We're trying to do it. We're trying to do a high round early so we can get it over with. Ooh.
The bloodthirst, bro.
Okay.
Fine, 7.
We're just gonna start it right now. Then we're just gonna start a high round right now.
I'm about to go, bro.
Me and Anthony will just do a high round right now. Then.
Oh. Alright then.
Oh my God, bro! These zombies. Perfect. Okay. I'm gonna try to say do it at 8, bro. I'm not trying to stay up at 1 o'clock doing this shit. Like, I want to be able to do stuff throughout the day, too.
Albert admitted to taking at least 10 hits of LSD prior to the killing. So this begs the question, is his testimony even reliable? If Jimmy can barely remember what had happened, how is Albert any different if he was just as high as the rest? To be able to prove this, Albert admitted to police that he saw a lion in the woods that night. So in court, Eric asked him if he saw a lion that night, to which Albert responded, he did not. Eric tells him, but didn't you hear? There was a circus in town and a lion escaped. And Albert says, you mean the lion was really there? This completely destroyed Albert's credibility, and it continues to get worse. On cross-examination for the first time, Albert admitted that prior to the attack, he had taken part in attacking Gary by kicking and punching him along with Ricky and Jimmy. And Albert would then recant his statement and said he was positive Jimmy never held Gary down. Eric would now make his closing statement to the jury. Ladies and gentlemen,
this thing needs to reload quicker.
I respectfully submit that only God Almighty knows or will ever know what happened that night. If Jimmy Troiano or Albert Quinones deserve to be punished, it is the Almighty to make that decision. 3 days later, the jury returned with a verdict. Jimmy Troiano was found not guilty for second-degree murder. Once it was all over, the media were going after rock and metal bands like Alice Cooper, Judas Priest, and AC/DC. And my biggest guess is because these were commonly known as Ricky's favorite bands. After all, he was wearing an AC/DC shirt the day of his arrest. They also blamed role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons. People in Northport were worried that the killing would leave a bad reputation, but after many years, it was calm, quiet,
Yo, he flew. The whistling literally flew.
Devil worshippers were out there, spreading the words of evil.
Also being sold to healthy reasons. Man, what's healthy about selling a knife to this?
I don't know whatever happened with Albert after all these years, but Jimmy would appear in a documentary about Ricky Castle titled Satan in the Suburbs that was released in the year 2000. There's an interview with Jimmy as well. Jimmy says he never really was pissed at Ricky after his death. He was mostly angry that he got himself in this mess. He also apologizes to Gary's parents and wished he was sober that night. I read a comment that Ricky's father had died of Lyme disease in the early 90s. Another that said Ricky's father was a piece of shit. But a crazy thing did happen with Jimmy. On October 9, 2004, he was arrested for robbing CVS Pharmacy to get Oxycontin and fentanyl patches. He left a note to someone behind the cash register saying this. He was sentenced to 12.5 years. The last thing I could find was a comment saying he's happily married now.
Boy, I got my third
in that same interview, Jimmy was asked what he would tell Ricky if he was here right now.
Hope you said your prayers before you hung up.
Another pistol, look!
7 years since the murder of Gary Bowers. And this case is still talked about a lot, but I barely find any YouTube videos on it. There was a documentary on this case that was released back in 2019. However, it's unavailable. You can watch Satan in the Suburbs here on YouTube. I'll leave a link to the playlist down below, as well as the interview with Jimmy. There's a film based on this case titled Ricky 6, which is also available here on YouTube. I'll link that as well. It's unfortunate we will most likely never know what really happened that night. Both of the surviving teenagers couldn't keep their stories straight, and the one who confessed to the crime is gone. So, maybe Eric is right. Maybe only God will ever know what really happened.
Want to know the best way to potentially make a big income online?
Not really.
By
I don't give a shit.
Small incomes online. Hi, I'm Rachel Rafay, and I've discovered a method to create these little mini income streams that individually aren't life-changing, but when added up, they've allowed me to quit my job as a Walmart cashier and live the life of my dreams. generating a very healthy income each month, even while I sleep. Now, this amazing system has given me the kind of lifestyle that most people dream about. No bosses, no commute, no long...
Hey guys, before we start this video, I want to thank today's sponsor, June's Journey. It's a free-to-play hidden object mystery game set in the 1920s. You play as June Parker, who is trying to find out what happened to her sister who was murdered. You go from scene to scene trying to find specific objects. Each scene will have its own set of objects that will be listed on the bottom of the screen that you have to find. And some of the objects are clues that help June figure out exactly what may have happened to her sister. To me, this game is very relaxing and addictive. I've been playing it a lot during my breaks at work and when I'm editing these videos. I've been playing it so much actually that I never give my energy bar a chance to refill since I'm constantly going back to play it some more. As the game progresses, it gets slightly challenging, but that's what makes the game more fun. It allows you to put your sense of observation to the test. The story has a lot of twists and turns as you uncover June's family's many secrets. So if you want to find out more about what happens, the download link will be in the description below. Again, thank you to June's Journey for sponsoring this video. Southwood Middle School, a school located in Palmetto Bay, Florida. In this video, we'll be discussing about three close friends, Michael Hernandez, Jaime Goff, and Andre Martin. All three were 14 and in the 8th grade. They have been friends for years and got along really well. However, one early morning in February 2004, something unimaginable happened.
I got the midnight roll.
That's good. That's good to know.
Michael Hernandez was born on February 2nd, 1990. He was the youngest child out of the two. He was described by his mother as a bright, talkative, inquisitive child. Michael was said to be a happy child and always seen smiling in photos. Teachers described him as an ordinary teenager, really smart, and a nice, quiet kid with a great sense of humor. They said that he was very charismatic and would socialize with just about anyone. As good as Michael was as a student, teachers did say that he would get into some trouble in class. Nothing serious, just things like talking in class, walk around the classroom when he wasn't supposed to, but that's about it. Overall, he was fine and rarely caused any trouble. In the morning of February 3rd, 2004, Michael was taken to school by a neighbor, which apparently was a common thing. Michael arrives at school, and around 8:30 a.m., he was hanging out with his best friend Jaime. The two were on the second floor of the school, laughing and joking. They were hanging outside of the bathroom waiting for Andre to show up. You see, the previous day on February 2nd, Michael had asked both Jaime and Andre to go into the bathroom and to go inside the handicap stall because he wanted to show them something. When all three went inside, Michael asked them to go into the handicap stall. However, Andre was hesitant about going in, but Jaime wasn't. Andre said he had a gut feeling that something was off. When they walked inside the bathroom, Michael immediately puts on a hat. Not only that, it was said to be really hot that day, yet Michael was wearing a windbreaker jacket. Andre, noticing this unusual behavior from Michael, he tells him no. Suddenly the bell rang, and Michael, being a perfectionist, he rushes to get to class on time. Thus all three left the bathroom. But now, it's the next day. 8:40 a.m. Andre never met up with them, so now it's just Michael and Jaime in the bathroom. Once the two entered the handicap stall, Michael told Jaime to turn around as he said it was a surprise. As he stood behind Jaime, he covers his mouth and began stabbing him repeatedly. He stabs Jaime 42 times, and to make sure he really dies, he slits his throat. Michael left Jaime hanging over the toilet. He stood over Jaime to make sure that he was dead. He then stashes his knife in a hidden pocket in his backpack and began to start cleaning himself up. But shortly after, a student walked into the bathroom and saw Michael washing his hands. When the boy asked Michael if he notices the body, Michael replied, "Yes, we should tell somebody." The two then rush out of the bathroom. One of the school's counselors, Bob Lunier, received the call while he was in the cafeteria and was informed that a student was found injured in the bathroom on the second floor. He rushes upstairs to the scene and found Jaime hanging over the toilet. His first thought that maybe he fell and hit his head. He runs back out to get a pair of latex gloves and brought a security guard with him. By then, the police were called. The two lift Jaime and drag his body out of the stall. They thought they could perform CPR. Bob recalls that there were no cuts on his face. He says, as we dragged him off, his sweatshirt had kind of come up around his neck. I pulled the sweatshirt down to take a pulse, and that's when we saw. And what they saw was his throat cut open. Jaime had both of his jugular veins slashed, along with his windpipe. 9:15 a.m. It's first period. Michael arrives 5 minutes late to his computer class. It was said by a classmate that when he walked into class, they noticed he had blood on his shirt, leg, and around his nose.
I don't know which one I got.
The teacher
Bloodthirst.
I'll
just take it for now.
He claimed that he ran into a door.
You really picked that up?
Blood came from.
Yeah, that machine gun I had was doing nothing.
Barely talked and was unusually quiet that morning. Remember, Michael was said to be talkative. Michael, noticing the blood on him, was drawing all this attention. He tries to go to the bathroom, but the school was on lockdown already, so he couldn't leave the classroom. Meanwhile, a student in the class had a radio, and because of that, the students in the class quickly realized that someone in the school was hurt. When the police had shown up, Michael had turned to his classmate and whispered, "Oh shit." Word was spreading around the school that someone was robbed and that the police found the gun. Around 3 p.m., Michael's mother had left work, and when she arrived home, she was called by a detective. She was informed that her son Michael was a witness to the murder of his best friend. His mother was afraid, thinking how traumatic it must be for her son to witness the death of his best friend. His mom picks up his dad from work, and they both went to the police station where Michael was being held at. When they saw Michael, they said he had no shoes, just socks. He tells his parents, "I didn't do it," and puts his head down on the table. They wanted to talk to their son, but were afraid, as they were warned that anything they said could be used against them in court. His mother did reach over to Michael's hand and ask what happened, but Michael didn't respond and stayed silent.
What did I get? I see it.
Get it.
Happened. Michael
I got the
kept giving
beeper.
the police different versions. One of these versions was seeing a teenager that went by the name of Sangre go into the bathroom and kill his best friend. Michael wasn't allowed to go home and was placed in a juvenile detention center overnight. His parents were confused and scared.
I need armor. I need armor.
That Michael would come back home. However, they would soon wake up with news that would change their world forever. 3 a.m. Michael's parents woke up from a call from the juvenile detention center. They were informed that they would be charged $2 a day for their son's room and board. But what they didn't tell him was that Michael had confessed to the police that evening and said that the teenager that went by Sangre did not exist. Michael admitted to killing Jaime. The police discovered a gravity knife in his backpack that was covered in blood. Michael said he planned the murders for over a week. He was wearing a jacket, a hat, and gloves to conceal physical evidence. He thought the jacket would prevent getting blood under his clothes, and as we know, that didn't work. He also wore a hat thinking it would prevent leaving hair at the crime scene. He said that Jaime did try to fight back and block the blade with his right hand. Once dead, he stood over Jaime's body and jabbed the knife into his face and scalp to make sure that he was dead. He said he felt satisfied when he realized that Jaime's eyes were lifeless. Afterward, he flushed his gloves down the toilet. He says the reason he wanted to kill both of his friends is because they both knew that Michael wanted to become a serial killer once he turned 18.
Okay, so here's the thing. When you are a coach or consultant and you give advice for a living, but you're still struggling financially, then
I don't give a shit.
By dawn, trucks had pulled up in front of Michael's parents' house. The entire house was lit up by lights from the cameras, their house phone ringing non-stop by the media requesting an interview. This went on for a few hours, but by then, Michael's parents knew that their son was the suspect. The police showed up the next day and went through Michael's room to search for any evidence or clues. They ended up taking his computer, his games, and his journal. Michael's mom was still in disbelief. She would tell herself that it never happened, or maybe if she shows up at the school, she'll find her son there and everything will be back to normal. As mentioned earlier, Michael was known to be a very well-liked kid in school, always smiling, telling jokes, and making people laugh. However, There was a hidden side.
Yeah, I'm gonna go
Michael.
pack punch the rips
The classmate
also.
from the computer class had said that Michael would occasionally visit adult websites in class, or websites depicting dead and dismembered corpses. Another student who witnessed Michael and Hyman together the morning of the murder said that for a while, around November 2003, Michael's background screen on his computer at the school was a photo of severed heads. The teacher was told by a student that Michael once brought a knife into the classroom, but the teacher wasn't informed about this until after the murder. Another instance where Michael punched students but would tell people he didn't remember doing so. Michael's mother says he exhibited signs of mental illness that at the time she ignored, thinking it was typical teenager behavior. As Michael aged, he became disconnected from his family. He even banned his parents from entering his bedroom. She says he had a routine that he had to follow and would have a list of things to do from the moment he wakes up in the morning until he has to go to bed at night. She says that he showed repetitive behavior, typical of obsessive compulsive disorder. But it gets worse from there. The journal that the police had found in Michael's room revealed a lot more of what was inside the mind of Michael Hernandez. In his journal, he would write about his fascination with serial killers and violence. He was obsessed with serial killers such as Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, and mass shootings like Columbine. On the page, there was a list of goals that he wrote down. Go to other countries. You will be a serial killer and mass murderer. Stay alone.
No.
Never
Fucking
forget God.
bullshit,
Never
bro.
have a cult and plan a mass kidnapping from New World. Be an expert thief. Have many weapons. Own many vehicles. In another list, Michael described the plan to kill Jaime, his older sister, and Andre. On top of the page, he listed the materials he needed for this murder. Hats, jacket, knife, gloves, and tape. All of this information was proof that this murder was premeditated, and Michael was charged with first-degree murder and attempted first-degree murder. For the next 4 years, Michael would remain at the juvenile detention center trying to work out a plea bargain. The family argued that their son was mentally ill, and hopefully his confession would be repressed. A judge ruled that Michael is mentally ill but competent to stand trial. Michael's attack wasn't random. He didn't go through an episode and decided one day he wanted to kill his best friends and sister. It was a calculated attack, and he didn't show any remorse in court.
I got the midnight.
By 2 psychiatrists, and they determined that Michael didn't suffer from a mental illness that would have impacted his decision to commit the murder. The parents didn't have expectations for their kid to come back home anytime soon, but still hoped that Michael could be placed somewhere where he can get psychiatric help, medication, and proper education. But there is no hope for any of that.
Guess pack a punch this real quick.
November 7th, 2008. Michael Hernandez, now 18, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for first-degree murder and 30 additional years for attempted first-degree murder. In the courtroom, the judge looked at Michael and said, quote, Jaime trusted you, and for that innocent trust, Jaime would die alone and frightened on that cold tile floor. You were not insane under Florida law that day. Michael's mother was able to tell the Gulf family that she was sorry, but also said that her son suffers from mental illness and that he doesn't deserve this fate. The Gulf family had forgiven Michael, but that day, Jaime's dad looked at Michael in the eye and pleaded, how could you? Why? It hurts, Michael. You hurt a lot of people. You hurt them bad. I hope and wish for you that you find peace. Michael would occasionally glance at him, but he didn't show
Holy
any
shit,
reaction.
they can't spawn out of
to
here.
Speak. But 8 years later, some possible hope would come from Michael.
No! I accidentally picked up the ice pick
Michael
bar.
Hernandez's original life
I
sentence
didn't even know what it was. I didn't.
after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that juveniles could not automatically be sentenced to life without the chance of parole in 2012. Michael tried to convince the judge that he was a changed man, that he wasn't the same person that brutally killed his best friend.
Today's testimony was about as dramatic and as
I got the hurricane.
No, that's the one.
In court, but until today, we had never heard from him.
I had to learn over years how wrong it was, what I did.
Wait, what did you trade in? Because you still have that version.
I'm sorry.
And apparently apologetic and remorseful 26-year-old Michael Hernandez
I traded in the Reaper.
and speaking directly to the parents of a classmate that he stabbed to death 12 years ago.
I wanted to apologize to his family, to his mother, and his father, because I didn't always feel this way.
Prosecutor Gail Levine wasn't buying it. She laid into Hernandez, saying that he is the same 14-year-old who stabbed his friend Jaime Goff 42 times in their middle school bathroom.
How'd you muster up those tears?
I feel horrible about what I did.
Any tears coming down your face?
Yeah, tears coming down my face.
Because I haven't seen you wipe your nose or wipe an eye.
Hernandez was sentenced to life without parole in 2008, but in 2012, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that juveniles could not face such sentences. He hopes that a new, lighter sentence will eventually mean a new life out of prison.
I want to get married. I want to have, kids one day.
But the state wasn't done with him yet. Levine even had him address his sister in open court, who Hernandez had once included on his hit list.
I love you, and I had absolutely no intent to ever do anything to you. I was mad one day. That's all it was.
The Goff family left the courthouse after another day of reliving awful memories and choosing not to speak to the media until the resentencing is over. And tomorrow we should hear from Jaime Goff's mother. It will likely also be the last day.
Wayfair has everything I need to make my home totally me. Sometimes I'm a homebody, so cozy. Sometimes I'm all business. And yeah, I'm not a chef. Perfect. But thanks to Wayfair, I do love my kitchen. Yes!
Have you been struggling with mental health issues and nothing seems to be working? Here at Compassion Behavioral Health, we have 3 innovative treatments. We have neurofeedback with VR, neurofeedback, and also TMS. We are one of the many facilities.
The judge truly believes that Michael is the same kind of person he was in 2004. In court, the judge read transcripts of a phone call he had with the pen pal. What Michael says in the phone calls are quite disturbing. The judge read it in court and said, he says on those phone calls he can't understand why so many mass killers kill themselves before they can enjoy what he calls the glory and the fun. He would also joke about his inability to cry, and the pen pal would play heavy metal music with violent lyrics.
Your man.
Oh, Dragon Box!
Dragon Box. And learning how to cry. Oh my god. God, man, I have to stab himself. Oh my god. Try to bring a sharp object to the interview. Do you have something in your hand, Mr. Hernandez? No. Stab. Oh, see, I can cry.
Hernandez was convicted of murdering his classmate, 14-year-old Jaime Goff, stabbing him more than 40 times. Hernandez returns to court Wednesday to see if his life sentence will change. Prosecutors will argue he should spend the rest of his life in prison. In another phone call with his father, Hernandez seems fixated on certain music.
All right. Type in, bleeding through. Into blood today? Yeah, I'm gonna that's gonna be the theme. Let's see how many bands with blood I know. Love lost in a hail of gunfire? That's that one. That seems appropriate for today, huh?
After hearing the phone calls, the father of the victim told us Hernandez should never go free. He hasn't changed, Jorge Goff told us. He was sentenced to life, and we want the same sentence. Hernandez's lawyers and families have always argued he needs psychiatric help, not prison.
Well, as his mother, my fondest hope would be that he get a more appropriate sentence, that he would be able to get the help that he needs.
A judge will decide if Hernandez gets another chance at life.
Investigation, Andre's identity was hidden from the public. He says, it absolutely pushed me toward law enforcement, seeing how the detectives protected me, my identity, and handled the case. Andre recalls 6 months before the murder, Michael said in passing that he wanted to become a serial killer. However, Andre just brushed it off, saying he didn't think anything of it at the time. He's happy with his life decision and says he's happy to help and protect his community.
Yeah?
April
Come in.
29, 2021. Michael, now 31, has died in prison.
I don't know.
Surveillance video captured him collapsing to the floor.
Doing
No
that.
foul play suspected. The cause of death is still pending to this day, but they believe he may have died of a possible drug overdose. His death did... April 29, 2021. Michael, now 31, has died in prison. Surveillance video captured him collapsing to the floor. No foul play is suspected. The cause of death is still pending to this day, but they believe he may have died of a possible drug overdose. His death didn't leave anyone happy, including his victim's parents. Jaime's parents said that they were both shocked when they heard Michael had passed. We were not expecting that at all. We've been hurt. We don't want to see anyone die or hurt like that. Even though we went through what we went through, we were not happy to hear that Michael Hernandez was dead in jail. For Jaime's mom, she said that she was crying a lot. To her, the news of his death was sad. They sat with Michael's parents, and Jaime's mother told them that they know how painful it is to lose a child. Michael's parents were upset about the death of their son and have apologized to Jaime's parents many times, but the Goff family forgave them years ago. As for Andre, he heard about Michael's death a few days after he died. He noticed that he got an automated message from the prison informing him that an inmate's custody status had changed. The death of his childhood friend brought him mixed feelings. My continued condolences for Jaime Goff's parents and the entire Goff family and the Hernandez family. They were not the ones who committed a crime, and they did lose a family member. A street was renamed to Jaime Goff Way in 2018 in honor of the 14-year-old boy. The bathroom where the murder took place has been remodeled. In 2007, once all the kids that were attending at Southwood during the time of the crime were gone, as all of them
I need armor now.
So with that, they remodeled the bathroom to move on. It's said to be barely recognizable. Jaime may be gone, but he will forever live on in the hearts of his loved ones.
60 more rounds to go. And how far are we in? Only an hour and 12 minutes in. Oh crap, that's actually pretty quick. Yo! We're an hour and 12 minutes in and we're around 40. I want to see what the round 50 speedrun is.
Want to know the best way to potentially make a...
Oh, flamethrower!
It's by making lots of small incomes online. Hi, I'm Rachel Buffet.
Oh my god.
I discovered a method to create these little mini income streams that individually aren't life-changing, but when added up, they've allowed me to quit my job as a Walmart cashier and live the life of my dreams, generating a very healthy income each month, even while I sleep. Now, this amazing system has given me the kind of lifestyle that most people dream about. No bosses, no commutes, no...
Welcome back to Disturbed Reality. In the past 12 months or so, the so-called GoreTuber genre on YouTube has grown exponentially, though in reality we are a small subgenre within the true crime community. For whatever reason, society has always had a fascination for the macabre. One particular fascination lies with serial killers. The likes of Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, and John Wayne Gacy are household names across the United States, whereas in the UK, the crimes of Peter Sutcliffe, aka the Yorkshire Ripper, and the murder of Jamie Bolger are etched into the nation's psyche. The general public seem to be fascinated by such cases, many of which occur from the 1960s to the 1980s, an era which is described as a brutal golden age for serial killers in the Western world. Many theories exist for why the number of serial killers was so high during this time period. One such theory is hypothesized by Canadian author Peter Vronsky. He speculates that the sheer amount of serial killers in the West during this time period was largely due to the after effects of World War II. He speculated on the effects of men having returned from battle, brutal battle, raising young children, whereas other theories delve into conspiracy, with many believing that a large number of the serial killers during that time period were a result of the MK-Ultra project, which was run by the CIA between 1953 and 1973. Many speculate that the leader of the Killer Manson family cult, Charlie Manson, was a subject of the MK-Ultra experiments. Conspiracy theories aside, the serial killer craze of the 1960s to the 1980s wasn't solely a Western phenomenon. In fact, the Soviet Union, or the USSR, had the same disturbing trend. The most notable example being Andrei Chikatilo, also known as the Rostov Ripper, a man who killed 52 people from 1978 to 1990.
52 people? How do you get away with that?
Prolific serial killers that the world has ever seen. Andrei Chikatilo wasn't a lone case. A whole host of other serial killers run rampant through the old school Soviet Union. A lesser known example.
What's crazy to think about is how many serial killers are alive right now that are still free that we don't know about. That shit is, oh my, bro, just thinking about that shit's insane.
He had set up of 43 others. But who was Anatoly Slivko? He was born with the full name of Anatoly Emilievich Slivko on the 28th of December, 1938. His birthplace being
an hour and 16 minutes in.
In the Soviet Union. Childhood wasn't easy for young Anatoly. First and foremost, he had a serious health condition called hydrocephalus, a condition in which conduces of a build-up of fluid in the cavities deep within the brain, which resulted in numerous genital urinary tract
infections. She took my armor!
Including erectile dysfunction as an adolescent and bedwetting as a child. Furthermore, as he grew up, he battled with insomnia and found it difficult to eat, which contributed to his emaciated state. Furthermore, in combination with Slivko's health problems,
oh no, I need armor again.
Class family, money was tight and things weren't easy. This was exasperated when Slivko's father was conscripted into the army to fight against Germany in World War II. Slivko's father was imprisoned by the army and later was returned home, only to be ridiculed by the locals. As a result, Slivko had to suffer bullying at school for his father's assumed cowardice. Despite the hardships, Anatoly eventually got through his formative school years and decided that he wanted to enroll in Moscow State University. However, once again, Anatoly
are you fucking kidding me? I just bought armor just to lose another piece.
To get into the Anatoly was called up to national service, but once again, he struggled to fit in. His fellow conscripts saw him as an oddball. They teased him and bullied him. Upon completing national service, Anatoly moved to Stavropol in the Rostov Oblast in 1960, where he got a job as a telephone engineer. On the surface, it seemed like things were finally going right for Anatoly. He also developed a passion for photography. In fact, he was somewhat of a local celebrity after creating amateur documentaries on the atrocities that the Germans committed in World War II. He was generally well liked by his local community, though at this time and throughout his whole life,
are you fucking kidding me, bro? I need to buy armor again. Again!
Turning point for the then 23-year-old Anatoly. During that year, he had witnessed a traffic accident involving a drunken motorcyclist who fatally killed a young teenage boy who was wearing a pioneer's uniform.
I'm throwing a jack.
Watching the boy experience convulsions in his death as the smell of gasoline and fire permeated the air, made him sexually excited for some inexplicable reasons. It was the trigger point for Anatoly's sadism. It was around this time where Anatoly, who was a trusted member of the community, started to volunteer for a local children's club. In 1963, Anatoly's younger sister, who had moved in with him in Stavropol, had arranged for him to meet a local girl named Ludmila after realizing his failure to attract female attention. Despite the fact that he knew himself to be homosexual since his adolescence, he went on to marry her in 1963. According to Slivko, throughout his long-married life with Ludmila, which lasted for 17 years, they had less than a dozen sexual encounters. Nevertheless, in spite of his sexual problems and his interest in women, he fathered 2 sons with her. It was in 1963, the same year he got married, where he started to exploit his position at the local children's club. He propositioned to the boys.
Something I noticed that a lot of serial killers are gay for some reason. Like a lot of them are like, if not gay, then they're like bisexual.
Would stretch the spine of the subject and subsequently
It's fucked up.
many boys took Anatoly at his word. Before each experiment,
You threw your jacks?
he instructed his victims not to eat to avoid vomiting. He would also dress up the boys in a young pioneer's uniform, just like the boy in the traffic accident. After successfully making his victims unconscious via hanging, Slivko would then strip them naked to look at them to satisfy his sexual fantasies. And in most cases, he would use his filmography skills to film the whole incident. During a period of 22 years, he sexually exploited at least 43 boys, most of whom resumed a normal life after gaining consciousness, oblivious of what previously happened. Anatoly Slivko would often keep the clothes and shoes of his victims as a memento, and again, in 36 cases, he filmed the experiments, presumably to keep himself occupied until he could find his next victim. However, in 7 cases, she himself wasn't enough to arouse Anatoly. He took it a step further. From 1964 to 1982, he would go on to kill 7 boys. Their ages ranged from 11 years old to 15 years old. His first victim was a 15-year-old homeless boy who was later identified as Nikolai Dobryshev.
He looks so good.
This is an extra large t-shirt that I bought. As you can see, it's baggy.
Homeless boy who was later identified as Nikolai Dobryshev. He was killed on the 2nd of June, 1984. According to Anatoly Slivko, this was a mistake. He was unable to revive him back from unconsciousness, which prompted Anatoly to dismember Nikolai's body and subsequently bury him. He destroyed the film and photographs as well. Despite the first murder being an accident, according to Anatoly, he couldn't get it out of his head, and he had a bloodlust for young boys. He killed his second victim, Alexei Kovalenko, in May 1965. Once again, he repeated the same process. He hanged the boy to death, and subsequently dismembered him. Though this time, it said
Yo, can they fucking give me the hurricane?
set the boy's limbs on fire with gasoline to recreate the smell and feelings that Anatoly felt on that fateful day in 1963 with the traffic accident. Slivko would dismember his victims with a combination of hacksaws and hatchets. After the second murder in 1965, it appeared that Anatoly tried to stop killing. However, on the 14th of November 1973, another 15-year-old boy named Alexander Nesmayanov went missing in the town of Nevidnyansk. Then subsequently, on the 11th of May 1975, 11-year-old Andrei Polyasin went missing after participating in Slivko's experiments. It said that local police knew that Slivko was the last person to see 11-year-old Andrei alive. However, due to his local fame, the police did not apprehend him. Both Nesmayanov and Polyasin were members of the Cervantes Children's Club, the club that Slivko managed, a connection that became more prominent after another 13-year-old boy from the club, Sergei Vatsiev, disappeared. The next victim was a 15-year-old named Vashislav Kovishchik, who was killed in 1982. On July the 23rd, 1985, Slivko killed his final victim, a 13-year-old boy named Sergei Pavlov, who disappeared after telling a neighbor he was going to meet Slivko, the leader of the Shergid children.
Throw your jacks.
By this point, police had started to take an interest in the children's club and highly suspected Anatoly Slivko as the culprit behind the disappearances. In November of 1985, prosecutor Tamara Langueva investigated 13-year-old Sergei Pavlov's disappearance. She took a keen interest in the Shergid Children's Club's activities. However, upon her initial inquiries, she had no evidence of anything illegal in the way the club was being run. Tamara went on to interview many boys who had belonged to the club, who said they had suffered temporary amnesia and that Slivko had performed many experiments with them. Following a long inquiry, Slivko was arrested at his Stavropol home in December of 1985. He would later formally be charged of 7 murders, 7 counts of SA, and 7 counts of necrophilia. In early 1986, he led investigators to the bodies of 6 of his victims, although he was unable to locate the body of his first victim, Nikolai Dokuchev. In June of 1986, after a relatively short trial, he was sentenced to death and placed on death row in Novocherkassk prison. Interestingly, a mere hours before his execution in 1989, Slivko was asked to conduct an interview with police to help arrest a then unidentified serial killer in the Rostov region who had killed a minimum of 29 victims by that time. Although Slivko did provide some useful insight into how such offenders, such as himself, were able to function, however, much of the actual advice that he provided to police would prove to be incorrect. The then unidentified serial killer, Kilo, was arrested in November of 1990 and would be convicted of killing 52 women and children in October of 1992. On the 16th of September 1989, just hours after he was interviewed by police, Slivko was executed by shooting, said to be killed by a single bullet to the head. When it comes to serial killer cases, what intrigues me the most is the argument of nurture versus nature. Are serial killers born, or are they created? I do believe in the concept that an individual can be born purely and simply evil, which I believe is the case for some serial killers. However, I do believe some are molded. Maybe some serial killers, and even a number of the public at large, have a predisposed capability of violence deep in their subconscious, and maybe this instinct, this bloodlust, is only triggered upon one suffering traumatic life experiences. Under the right circumstances, I believe most of us have the capability of unimaginable violence. As the old Bill Moyers quote goes, civilization is but a thin veneer stretched across the passions of the human heart, and civilization doesn't just happen, we have to make it happen. But nevertheless, one of the most disturbing aspects of the Anatoly Slivko case was that he filmed his murders, many of which can still be found online today. From my research, it's unclear on how the footage
I'm fucking down, bro.
I have no armor. I have no.
Maybe it was released by authorities for some sort of documentary. It's unclear.
No way.
It's clear. And what is very disturbing is that you don't have to go on underground.
Those explosions are pissing me the fuck off.
It's far too easy to find. There are various clips online.
It's not even the zombies.
I will take you through what I saw. The video that I watched.
And they're not giving me the fucking hurricane.
Slivko. The whole video duration was just under 2 minutes long. The first clip
Reaper's like literally trash. Like why?
By a collection of shoes, presumably from previous victims. The film is shot in a documentary.
Like literally is news.
The next clip is even more disturbing, as it shows the hanging process of one of his victims. The setting is a wooded area, and you see Anatoly Slivko pick up one of his child victims, and he places him on a log. The child is standing on the log, and Anatoly Slivko places a noose around the child's neck. And in this clip, you can see that the child trusted Anatoly Slivko as he helped Anatoly put the noose on. Once the noose is on, Anatoly holds the child and kicks out the log from under him. He then carefully releases the victim, ensuring not to break his neck, instead to let the ligature choke the life out of his finger. The next clip shows the same process with another child, and you can see that the child is dressed up in the pioneer's uniform. The next clip once again shows the same process. Anatoly puts the noose around the child's neck and has him stand on what appears to be a stool. Anatoly kicks the stool out from underneath the victim's feet so that he would hang and choke. Anatoly then runs out of shot. However, in this clip, you can see that the victim realizes that he's made a grave mistake. He grabs onto a branch next to him to stop himself from choking. Then you see Anatoly run back into shot and drag the child back down so that he can choke. It's honestly one of the most disturbing clips that I've ever seen. The last three clips detail the dismemberment of his victims' lifeless bodies. The first clip showing Anatoly using a wood saw to cut off the child's toes as he's still wearing his shoes. The next clip shows the deceased victim's feet being set on fire. Once again, Anatoly trying to recreate that feeling that he got from the traffic accident. The last clip shows Anatoly using a hatchet to remove a deceased victim's right leg. The victim has also been decapitated, and that is where the compilation ends. There very well may be more clips online, but at this point, I've seen enough. It's one of the most disturbing true crime cases that I've...
He's bro doing Ring Around the Rosie!
The depravity of Anatoly Slivko led to the murder of 7 children and the of countless others. A man who exploited his positions of power and trust to inflict unimaginable cruelty on his victims. That is the case of Anatoly Slivko. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you can enjoy this sort of content, this was something a little different for the channel. I don't usually cover serial killers for the most part. However, if you enjoyed this video, please let me know, as I will consider creating more serial killer type content. Alternatively, if you have any other video ideas, please feel free to share them in the comments below, or even better, follow me on Twitter in the link in the pinned comments, or alternatively, drop me an email. Please also feel free to check out my Patreon. It's a place for me to discuss various topics without necessarily having a filter. I want it to be a
oh my god, I need to buy ammo.
Critical thinkers. There may be some conspiratorial talk and things along those lines, but we'll see where it goes. Anyway, again, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you can enjoy this sort of content, once again, thank you guys for the support. And as always, stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Stitch Fix. Get pieces that fit you in 3 easy steps. Tell us your style and size. We learn what you like and deliver looks that match your vibe and fit your wallet. Keep what you love and send back the rest. Shipping and returns are on us. Stitch Fix. Take your style quiz to get started.
At Sonobello Orlando, we remove your stubborn body fat permanently in just one visit.
Hi, I'm Dr. Elena Vega, a board-certified...
welcome back to Disturbed Reality. Ever since the creation and growth of this channel, and also the growth of the GoreTuber genre on YouTube, I often ask myself, what is the lure and what is the appeal of such channels such as my own, Plagued Moths, Disturbance, and many more? I often wonder, am I wired differently to the average person, and question myself on whether what I'm doing is right. I'm honest enough to admit that as long as I can remember, I've always had a fascination with the macabre, from watching horror movies.
Which one did I get?
Preteen,
I got the fucking Reaper, bro.
Sports, such as boxing,
I got the Reaper.
and MMA.
Are you kidding me? I'm really gonna die now. I only have one piece of damn armor, bro. And I got the Wonder Weapon, and I'm down.
You serious?
Yes, it's literally in the box.
That a large percentage
fucking darn it! It does that all the time. It doesn't want to give it to me, and then right when I go down, then it wants to do that. Fucking done with this stupid shitty
Some examples of these individuals can be found on my channel, such as the Necrotrosk Maniacs.
I'm gonna go get armor, and I have to go buy all my fucking perks.
In the summer of 2007,
bro,
killing a total of 21 people. The case garnered social media attention, mainly because a murder tape from the case was leaked online. It would later be known as 3 Guys 1 Hammer, and it's safe to say that over the years, millions of curious individuals have attempted to watch the video, most of them being your average everyday person like me or you. But sometimes, it's what we can't see that is most terrifying. For example, imagine yourself laying in bed in the middle of the night and you hear loud creaking or a banging noise. Some people's imagination and instinct will lead them to thinking that there's somebody else in the house, when in reality, probability would indicate that it is merely the wind or creaking pipes. You can also use well-made horror movies as another example. Take the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a movie in which that many people would swear is one of the most bloody in the history of cinema, but in reality, very little blood is actually shown in the movie. Instead, the movie creates an atmosphere of tension and a feeling of dread. The movie doesn't show you much, but it leaves your mind to fill in the blanks. But nevertheless, that brings us into today's topic, Gore Lost Media. Let's get into it. Number 1.
Fuck.
December 2002, the arrest of Armin Meiwes shocked Germany. He was arrested under suspicion of murder, the victim being 43-year-old.
Let me go pack a punch the pistol real quick.
Due to the graphic and
until I get the Hurricane, I'm gonna have this pistol pack a punch.
On the surface at least, Armin appeared to be your everyday working man. He had a very good job. As a technician, he was mild-mannered and generally well-liked by the community. But despite the surface-level normality, Armin was hiding a deep, dark and depraved fetish of cannibalism. To explore his dark desires further, he joined a now-defunct website by the name of Cannibal Cafe, a forum-type website where like-minded individuals with cannibalistic tendencies could discuss their fetish. Armin began posting on the website. He was looking for a willing victim to allow him to kill them and then eat them. Examples of his posts can still be found online. One person on the forum wrote the following: "If anybody wants to eat an 18-year-old gorgeous male by any means as you wish, then just tell me how you would feel whilst devouring my horny flesh into your belly, and I will reply to you so we can discuss real arrangements. Please eat me." A user by the name of Frankie, which was Armin's pseudonym, replied, "Hi, I am Frankie from Germany. I will eat you. Please tell me your height and your weight. Also, send me a pic. Where are you from? I hope you can come quick to me. I am a hungry cannibal. Your butcher, Frankie." Another post mentioned that Armin was looking for a well-built 18 to people were expressing their interest to be Frankie's victim. However, they all backed out. Well, that was until Bernd Jürgen Armando Brandes, an engineer from Berlin, answered the advertisement in March 2001. Jürgen was willing to fulfill Armin's sick desire. The two quickly fired up a conversation and organised to meet on the 11th of March 2001. A transcript of its online chat can still be found online. I will read out a brief snippet. For reference, Jürgen's pseudonym is Kator99, whereas Armin's is Anthropicus. Kator99 types, "Hello?" Anthropicus replies, "Hi Kator, what do you do professionally that you are up so late at night?" Kator99 replies, "I can't sleep well anymore because of our meeting." Anthropicus replies, "That's a sensible reason. Yesterday, I was incredibly tired. It was a stressful day." Kator99 replies, "I'm in telecommunications." Anthropicus replies, "That sounds interesting." Kator99, "I believe you." Anthropicus replies, "I'm looking forward to our meeting. It will definitely be really cool." Kator99, "I want it to be. I hope it will be really cool. Are you setting an alarm clock?" Anthropicus, "It's only a few days until March the 9th. Kator99 replies, "Still, I would have rather met you yesterday and felt your teeth." Anthropicus replies, "One can't have everything. There's still some time before you really feel my teeth." Kator99 replies, "I hardly know what to expect. Have you ever slaughtered a man before?" Anthropicus replies, "Unfortunately, only in my dreams. But I do it in my dreams every night. The conversation does go on and it gets more graphic. If you are interested, you can find that online. But nevertheless, on the 9th of March 2001, Jürgen made his way to... Jürgen made his way to Armin's home in Rottenburg, a small village in Germany. The two men would drink red wine and would go on to have sex. Once they were done, they carried out their agreed plan. It's worth noting that Armin recorded the graphic process on videotape. At first, Jürgen insisted that Armin attempt to bite his penis off. This, however, did not work, as it was too tough, though Armin was able to burst both of Jürgen's testicles by biting them. Ultimately, Jürgen used a kitchen knife to remove Jürgen's penis.
Oh, bro, I don't want to hear
Jürgen
this.
attempted to eat his own severed penis, but he couldn't because it was too tough and, as he put it, too chewy. Armin then sautéed the severed penis in a pan with salt, pepper, and garlic, but by then, it was too burned to be consumed. He then chopped it up into chunks and fed it to his dog. Armin then placed Jürgen into a bathtub so that he would bleed out. Maiwes was reading a Star Trek book for 3 hours whilst his voluntary victim was bleeding to death in the bath. Every 15 minutes or so, Maiwes would check on the victim, large quantities of alcohol.
But I feel like it's gonna make the game crash.
In order to quell Jürgen's pain, after 3 hours of Jürgen's penis being severed, Armin kissed Jürgen on the forehead and killed him by stabbing him in the throat. After stabbing Jürgen Brandes to death, he hung the body on a beam.
Bro, I can literally stay back.
Then he even tried to grind down the bones to use as flour. The whole recording is said to be between 2 and 4 hours.
Bro, I'm keeping the bow.
Armin Maiwes ate the body over the next 10 months, storing body parts in his freezer under pizza boxes and consuming 20 kilograms of the flesh. Armin Maiwes was arrested in December 2002 before he could kill again, after a college student in Innsbruck phoned the police after seeing new advertisements for victims and details about the killing on the internet. Investigators searched Armin's home and they found body parts and the videotaped killing. On the 13th of January 2004, Maiwes was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 8.5 years in prison. A very light sentence. However, in Germany, the case was very complicated because cannibalism itself was not technically illegal in Germany at the time. In fact, there was a debate over whether iOS could be convicted at all, considering that Bernd Jürgen Brandes had voluntarily and knowingly participated in the acts. However, in April 2005, a German court ordered a retrial after prosecutors appealed his sentence. They believed that he should have been convicted of murder and not manslaughter, and subsequently given a life sentence. At his retrial, psychologists
look at that bitch just drop on the floor.
still had fantasies.
He's just death dropping.
Young people. On the 10th of May 2006, a court in Frankfurt convicted iOS of murder and sentenced him to life in prison. Ironically, iOS became a vegetarian in prison. Of course, the graphic videotape was confiscated by police and subsequently was shown to the jury. Interestingly, a few still images can be found online showing Armin butchering Jürgen. However, according to German police at least, all footage from the graphic murder has now been destroyed, of course making a leak impossible. But who knows, maybe some footage still exists, but quite frankly, even if it does, I can't ever see it reaching the light of day. Number 2. Yellowstone Acid Bath. In June of 2016, Sable Scott and her brother Colin visited the Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming, USA. Yellowstone is a 3,500-mile wilderness recreation area atop a volcanic hotspot. It's one of the most popular natural tourist areas in the USA, averaging 4 million visitors plus.
Can they fucking give me the hurricane, bro?
But despite the park's outstanding natural beauty,
I'm legitimately actually getting pissed now.
Which can bring incredible danger. Despite the sheer amount of visitors each year, incidents of fatality are extremely rare at Yellowstone, but occasionally, some individuals will disregard the impact of Mother Nature and step off the designated trails and boardwalks to explore further. This was the case with Colin and Sable Scott. They disregarded many signs, warning them to stay on the boardwalk and that they were entering a thermal zone. However, thinking that they knew better, they decided not to heed the warnings and went on to try to look for a place to swim. After walking several hundred yards off the trail, Sable and Scott found a small water around 6 feet long, 4 feet wide and 10 feet deep.
I ran out of armor also.
Finding the pool, the pair thought they found what they were looking for. Sable was recording the natural beauty of the area with her brother in frame. Scott knelt down beside the pool of water in order to check the temperature. As he reached down to check, Scott lost his footing and fell in the water. Immediately, Sable realized they made a catastrophic mistake. As soon as Scott hit the water, he let out a piercing screech. All while still recording on her mobile phone, Sable ran over to her brother in order to try to rescue him. However, it was to no avail. As her brother was boiling alive, Sable ran off to try to find help and found a park ranger. When they got back to the pool, Scott was already dead and floating face down. Park rangers attempted to recover Scott's body. However, a thunderstorm promptly
that must be fucking horrifying.
To retreat for the night. Returning the next day, they found that nothing of the man remained, apart from his flip-flops.
I feel bad for her, the witness that
he had completely dissolved in the red-hot, acidic water. Upon the investigation of Scott's death, Yellowstone Park officials asked for Sable's phone in order to get a copy of the video of Scott's death. Sable gave the officials permission to take her phone and extract a copy of the video. Upon returning the phone to Sable, Yellowstone officials stated to her that she should not watch the video and even asked her would she like them to delete it. However, she said no and that she wanted to keep the footage. She said that she will never watch it, but wanted to keep it. For what reason? I have no idea, but I see it unlikely that the footage will ever be made public. Number 3. The Necro Trosk Maniac's murder tapes. In the summer of 2007, Ukraine was shocked when two 19-year-old men were arrested for the murder of 21 people around the Dnipropetrovsk region. The case garnered mainstream media attention due to the high body count and the grotesque nature of the murders. The two 19-year-old killers, Viktor Sienko and Igor Sapruniuk, were arrested on the 23rd of July 2007, along with an accomplice, Alexander Hansa. Subsequently,
bro, I'm gonna literally be getting it by the time we fucking make the world record.
Defendants were found guilty. Sienko and Sapruniuk were sentenced to life imprisonment, whereas Hansa only received 9 years, as he never actually took part in the murders. Upon the men's arrest, police seized the suspects' mobile phones and personal...
I threw the jack!
They found contained multiple video recordings
I need to go get ammo.
of the murders. Of course, this case is most notable for producing the infamous Three Guys One Hammer snuff video. One misconception surrounding this video is the narrative that the killers actually uploaded this video online themselves. That is not the case. The video actually leaked after the killers were arrested. In fact, it found its way online on the 4th of December 2008 when it appeared on a shock site. To our knowledge, the source of the leak was never identified. The infamous Three Guys One Hammer video depicts the brutal murder of 48-year-old Sergei Yatsenko. As the video plays, Sergei is seen laying on his back in a wooded area, dazed, and he's struck repeatedly in the face with a hammer, which is concealed in a yellow
it's gonna be, bro, you can literally go AFK while I do this. Bro, give me all your points. Bro, I'm dead serious.
With a screwdriver. All while this is happening, the killers can be heard laughing and joking at Sergei Yatsenko's expense. The attack lasts for around 4 minutes, during which the victim lapses in and out of consciousness. One murderer is seen smiling to the camera during the video. After they kill Sergei, the murderers filmed themselves walking back to their car, showing that the crime took place close to the side of a road. They discuss the murder calmly, expressing mild surprise that the victim was still breathing after a screwdriver was plunged into his exposed brain. The two killers then wash their hands and the hammer with a water bottle and begin to laugh. Quite frankly, it's one of the most brutal acts of cruelty that you will ever see. However, this was not the only
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god. I have 1 armor.
Never established a concrete motivation behind the killings. Local media reported that the killers have a plan to get
I'm gonna get it.
murder videos that they recorded.
I lost my armor. I need to throw a jack in the box. I threw it.
To make 40 separate snuff videos.
Bro, you got the crossbow? Bro, that would...
classmate who claimed he often heard Sapruniuk was in contact
I'm gonna go get my stuff.
Yeah. I mean, if it could fucking give it anything good to me.
Would pay much money once they were made. These claims, however, were never officially proven. These claims, however,
it's not even giving me the Tesla.
Another one of their murders, which is believed to have been recorded, is the murder of Valeria Lovachenko. Much like all the other victims, she was beaten in the head and the face with a blunt object. However, the sadistic nature of this murder goes a step further. It turned out that Valeria was pregnant. The killers noticed this, and was the reason why they targeted her. They felt she would be vulnerable and unable to defend her.
What is this, bro? I threw a jack in a box and they're not going towards it.
The killer's bloodlust. In fact, they took it a step further. One of the killers cut open Valeria's stomach and womb and ripped out her unborn baby.
What the fuck is wrong with people?
Murders that the killers recorded, but what is for certain is that they recorded.
Look what I get, the fucking D-Isles.
Sergei Yatsenko murder. Let's hope that these snuff videos never see the light of day, and hopefully the Ukrainian authorities destroy the remaining tapes. Number 4. The Grizzly.
Look what I got.
Timothy Treadwell was an American vet enthusiast, environmentalist, and documentary filmmaker.
I'll go pack a
founder
punch it.
of the bear protection organization, Grizzly People. Incredibly,
Oh my god.
he lived among coastal brown bears, which he called grizzly bears, in Katmai National
This strat would be so easy if there wasn't exploding zombies. If there wasn't exploding zombies, that's literally.
That German director, Werner Herzog, directed the 2005 documentary film Grizzly Man.
Oh my god, I don't even have to speak solo. I forgot about this.
Timothy Treadwell.
I'm gonna check in the box.
The film includes some of Treadwell's own footage.
I think that, yeah, this is the end of the round.
2003, and of interviews with people who knew or were involved with Treadwell.
Wait, you got it?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
In October 2003, Timothy Treadwell
They broke my armor, bro.
Amy Huggernaut visited Katmai National Park, which is on the Alaska Peninsula, across.
Dude, I'm gonna lower my volume because this is way too loud. Bro, that thing is actually annoying.
His girlfriend, Amy, feared bears and felt very uncomfortable in their presence. Her final journal entries indicated that
I don't think the zombies are on you, they're on me.
I got a whistling on me, that's why I fucking go. Bitch won't die.
Treadwell usually visited the park in the summer, but this time around, he was there later than normal. At a time when bears essentially tried to gain as much fat as possible before winter, food was very scarce that fall, causing the bears to be even more aggressive than usual. Interestingly, Timothy
This lag killed me as young.
and he actually returned to the city of Kodiak on the 26th of September to store their gear for the season and catch a connecting flight.
I'm just trying to hit the box and see what I get. When the round changes, I'm gonna go to pack a punch.
I need to get the hurricane. The only issue is that this is technically the fastest spawn this area. Oh my god, bro. He double swiped me.
So you wanna go to pack or do you wanna stay here?
Wait, I'm gonna get armor real quick. We could try out pack. We could try out pack and see how it goes. If we keep losing armor like crazy and all that, and we almost go down, then we'll switch.
Alright.
Because the only issue with this shot is probably the amount of money that we're gonna be spending.
Some of the last footage taken by Treadwell mere hours before his death includes a video of a bear diving into the river repeatedly for a piece of dead salmon. Treadwell mentioned in the footage that he did not feel entirely comfortable around that particular bear. Many people speculate that it was indeed the very bear that killed him and Amy. The last known contact with Timothy and Amy took place on the 5th of October 2003. Treadwell spoke with an associate in Malibu, California via cell phone. Treadwell mentioned that he had no problem with any bears. However, the next day, October the 6th, Willie Fulton, a Kodiak air taxi pilot, arrived at Amy and Timothy's campsite to pick them up, but found the area abandoned, except for a bear. He contacted local park rangers.
I'm scared to look away. I'm getting hit.
Upon investigation, Treadwell's
I'm getting hit.
There's woodslids. There's too many.
Hey, I got it. I'm gonna spam.
Recovered a short distance from the camp. Amy's partial remains were found next to the torn and collapsed tent, partially buried in a mound of twigs and dirt. A large male bear that was protecting the campsite was killed by park rangers during their attempt to retrieve the bodies.
Yeah, I feel like the game's gonna crash.
A short time later, when it charged the park rangers, an on-site necropsy of the large male bear revealed human body parts such as fingers and limbs in the bear's stomach. The younger bear was consumed by other animals before it could be necropsied. Park rangers recovered a video camera at the site and soon realised it had been operating during the attack. Police said that the tape was around 6 minutes long. However, it contained no video as the lens cap was still on the camera. The tape begins with Treadwell yelling that he's being attacked.
Oh no, shoot at the floor. Look, shoot at the floor down here. But you can still buy ammo.
Yeah.
Suggesting that Treadwell and Amy were in the process of setting up another video sequence.
I lost
the camera had been turned on just before attack.
I only have one armor left.
Audio before running out of tape. This,
right back.
was enough time to record
Let me
initial attack
buy
on
armor.
and his agonizing screams. Amy can also be heard in the tape yelling at Timothy to play dead. It's believed that
bro, that spawn's not bad if we got 3 people.
On audio.
Yeah.
Several sources state that in the audio.
I mean, we could do that if we did USS.
As Timothy is being
oh yeah, true.
limb from limb.
That shit wouldn't be bad. Bro, how come every time we find new strats in different maps, it's better than the other map?
During the Grizzly Man documentary, director Werner Herzog can be seen listening to the audio with headphones. Immediately after listening,
what I'm getting pissed off about is it's about to be round fucking 50 and I still haven't gotten the Hurricane.
And that she should destroy it. And he also warns her to never look at the photos that he saw at the coroner's office. As of right now, the photos have never been leaked to the public. In regards to the audio tape, it's still believed to be in the hands of Jewel, and allegedly, she chose not to destroy it. So is it possible that this tape eventually ends up online? We shall see. Number 5.
Are you fucking kidding me, bro? I just bought armor.
Toolbox killers. During a 5-month time period in 1979, Southern California was terrorized by 2 men, Lawrence Whitaker and Roy Norris. The psychotic duo would be dubbed the Toolbox Killers because the majority of instruments that they used to torture and murder their victims with were items such as pliers, ice picks, sledgehammers, bladed tools, all items which were normally found stored inside a household toolbox. The pair killed 5 teenage girls, aged from 13 to 18. The victims being
I'm fucking done, bro.
Andrea Hall, Jackie Gilliam, Jacqueline Lamp, and Shirley Lynette Ledford.
I'm gonna go buy armor again.
I'm gonna use it.
In order for the pair to abduct teenage girls, Whitaker decided they would need a van as opposed to a car.
Bro, that thing he did is dropped dead.
Whitaker purchased a silver grey 1977 GMC Vandura in February of 1979. The vehicle
like his body is, bro, the wasteland is literally right in front of me, and he literally is just, like, his body was like stiff, and it just
realized he, Norris, could pull up on a teenage girl real close and not have to open the door all of the way. Whitaker and Norris would nickname their van Murder Mac. From February to June 1979, Whitaker and Norris picked up over 20 female hitchhikers. Although the pair did not assault these girls in any manner. In fact, these were merely practice runs and used as a way to develop techniques.
I picked up the ice pick back
voluntarily. The pair would also drive around looking for abandoned locations to take
I
their
don't know what to
victims,
do.
and they found an isolated fire road in the San Gabriel Mountains. Whitaker broke open the locked gate with a crowbar, and he replaced the lock with one of his own. On the 24th of June, 1979, the pair set out in search of their first victim, which happened to be Lucinda Schaefer. Schaefer was last seen
Brenner!
Oh my god, I don't even get out. I don't have a hurricane in me, and I don't have free fire.
There's 2 of them in here. Don't worry, I got this.
Better
spam. After unsuccessfully attempting to entice Schaefer into
do you have any Jack-in-the-Boxes at least? I'm fucking dead.
And Norris drove
I got gang raped.
And parked alongside the driveway. Norris then exited the vehicle, opened the passenger side slide.
I don't even know how I survived that.
Into the van, with his head and shoulders obscured from the view behind the door.
I honestly don't know how I survived that.
Norris exchanged a few words with her before dragging her into the van and closing the door. Norris bound the victim's arms and legs and gagged her with duct tape as Whitaker drove Schaefer to the fire road in the San Gabriel Mountains,
am I still alive?
Where in April the pair had previously switched the locks. At the fire road, Norris reeled Schaefer after instructing Whitaker to go and take a walk and return in 1 hour. Upon returning to the van, Whitaker similarly reeled the girl in Norris's absence. Lucinda Schaefer was eventually killed by Whitaker when he manually strangled her until she collapsed to the ground and began convulsing. He He then twisted a wire coat hanger around her neck with vice grip pliers until Schaefer's convulsions ceased. Her body was wrapped in a plastic shower curtain and was thrown over a steep canyon that Whittaker had selected. Their second victim was Andrea Joy Hall. On the 8th of July 1979, 2 weeks after the murder of Schaefer, Whittaker and Norris encountered
I'm out of ammo on all my guns.
Hitchhiking along the Pacific Coast Highway.
I literally have a pistol.
Their van to offer Hall a lift. Another vehicle pulled over and offered Hall exactly that, which she accepted. Whittaker and Norris followed the vehicle from a distance until Hall exited the vehicle in Redondo Beach. At this,
it doesn't take much for you to switch your payments to Square. Sign your minutes at Square.com. Take a pick of hardware and find a place for the old stuff. Then you're ready to take payments. It's all pretty fast. Fast like nature money, instantly fast. It's all pretty simple. No long-term contracts or hidden fees. Because when you switch to Square, it doesn't take much to see how easy your payments should be. Get started free at Square.com.
Every day that you stay on track is a day that you've achieved a goal. I'm able to live fully, eat what I want to eat within moderation, and still lose weight and be successful doing it, and feel good doing it.
The Hall exited the vehicle
Shut up.
Redondo Beach. At this point, Norris hid in the back of the van in order to dupe Hall into believing Whittaker was traveling alone. Inside the van,
I ran out of ammo with all my guns.
Drink from the cooler in the rear of the van. Norris, who had been hidden behind a bedsheet in the rear of the van, pounced on Hall when she attempted to retrieve a drink, and after a strenuous fight, managed to subdue her by twisting her arm behind her back, causing her to scream in pain. Norris then gagged her with duct tape and bound her wrists and ankles. The pair then drove her to the San Gabriel Mountains, beyond where they had earlier taken Schaefer. At this location, she was rearmed twice by Whittaker and once by Norris. Whittaker ordered Hall to pose for several Polaroid pictures. After the pair got bored of Andrea, Whittaker killed her. He drove an ice pick through her ear into her brain. He then turned her body over and thrust the ice pick into the other ear, stomping on it until it broke.
Bro, why is he so descriptive? Like if he did it.
Because it's in the script. It's in the what's it called? Like the autopsy report.
Whittaker and Norris observed two girls named Jackie Gilliam and Jacqueline Lamb. They were sitting on the bus
Jacqueline Lamb?
Lamb and Gilliam had been hitchhiking along the Pacific Coast Highway. Whittaker and Norris observed them as they were resting at the bus stop. Whittaker and Norris offered the girls
how about
a Gilliam gladly accepted. Inside the van, both girls were offered marijuana.
Good thing I did not pick up the ice pick.
Shortly after entering the van,
like it's so skinny, like I can't even see what I'm looking at. That's how come I pick it up. My screen is blurry and I don't even know what I'm looking at.
Mountains. When the girls protested, both Whittaker and Norris attempted to reassure the girls' concerns. However,
man slipped like if the floor was mopped. He was running and then he slipped, bro, like if the floor was mopped.
Unconscious, before overpowering 15-year-old Jackie Gilliam. Regained consciousness. Whereupon Norris twisted her arm behind her back.
Bro, I need to find him.
Bro, he was running all the way over here. I shot him and he started running over here. And then he got shot and then he just slipped on the floor, bro.
Norris, binding and gagging the two girls. Gilliam and Lamb were then driven to the San Gabriel Mountains, where they were held captive for almost 2 days.
I need to find another
being
one.
bound and gagged with repeated instances of sexual and physical abuse. Both men slept in the van alongside their two hostages, with each
I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm literally reloading and I'm...
Whittaker walked Lamb onto a
Yeah?
and forced her to pose.
Now they're telling me to come here, bro. Are you fucking No.
I can cover you.
I'm coming. Hold up,
Never
wait,
mind, it's gone.
Don't you? Okay, let me spam my free fire real quick, and then I'm gonna throw all my jack in the boxes.
If you go to pack, I can maybe cover you. That's my only way. Yeah, go to pack. Oh, Max. Yeah, I can cover you.
Over here?
Pack.
I'm coming right now.
Go.
We got 49 more rounds to go.
And I don't even have armor, bro.
Go get armor.
Got that.
I'm gonna wait for you to come. Actually, I'm gonna go with you to get armor. Then when we get back over here, I'm gonna throw I'm gonna throw all 3 of my jack in the boxes, and then you
I'll
got
throw mine too.
Yeah, but throw yours one at a time, because I'm gonna throw mine rapidly.
Okay, go.
Okay, I'm gonna throw mine right now. I'm coming!
Alright.
I'm back.
Bro, did you lose any armor?
I lost 2, but I can go get it back. I need the hurricane.
I literally used all my hurricane ammo. I look at the floor and all I'm thinking about is that zombie, bro. I wanna go back upstream.
Shit, I'ma just pick
I would literally find the time stuff. Literally. No, that's actually gonna be really hard.
Let me go pack a punch this real quick. Bitch, move! Oh no, that crawler almost got me killed.
Oh my god, I have no ammo. Oh, garbage. I'm dead.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Bro, like, why is there so many? And I'm dead again.
Whoa!
Oh, you got the thing?
Yeah, I'm fucking dead.
I didn't have
shit.
0 ammo.
Bitch! Bro, I just lost my armor again, bro. The hurricane! Hallelujah! It took 51 fucking rounds for me to get the hurricane. 51 rounds.
I'm dead.
Should've got myself water.
I get the Wimpers, let's say Wimmersburg SPZ. Like, what are these names?
I got banned on Omegle yesterday. Yeah, bro. Literally, I forgot. I was with, I think, Damien, and I'm literally doing Omegle, and I'm just talking with people, and then out of nowhere it says I got banned. So I have to wait until I get unbanned.
You should get like 2 accounts, and then if you get banned on one, you can just switch.
That's what I did. The second account got banned.
Jacob William III.
Sean Jaquavius Buquainio III. I'm gonna name that my skin.
Jacob William.
Jacqueline Jaquees Jamaria III. I'm gonna name that my daughter. That's my. If I get a daughter, that's gonna be her name.
Jerium. I'm trying to like come up with like random words.
Jerium Homunculus the Third.
That sounds disgusting.
Look at how the way he. Oh my god, he disappeared.
Imagine you get killed so fast you disappear.
Yeah.
Patron Homunculus.
Jaquavius Homunculus the Third.
Imagine if the song was born like Homunculus, but they turned him to. That's a good movie, I'm not gonna lie.
After 2 hours of captivity, Norris killed Ledford by strangling her with a wire coat hanger, which he tightened with pliers. Ledford did not react much to the act of strangulation, although she died with her eyes open. Whittaker then opted to start her body on a random lawn in order to view the reaction from the press. The pair drove to a randomly selected house in Sunderland, where Norris discarded Ledford's body in a bed of ivy upon the front lawn. Ledford's body was found the next morning by a jogger. An autopsy revealed, in addition to having been sexually violated, she had died of strangulation after receiving excessive blunt force trauma to the face, head, breasts, left elbow, as well as suffering various bone fractures. Her genitalia and rectum had been torn, caused in part by Whittaker having inserted pliers into her body. After an extensive investigation, both Whittaker and Norris were arrested.
That's not even a. How did they do an autopsy on that, bro?
A search of Whittaker's apartment revealed several Polaroid
That's not even a body. That's just don't matter.
as depicting Paul and Gilliam, both of whom had been reported missing earlier the same year. Inside Whittaker's van, investigators discovered a sledgehammer, a plastic bag filled with lead weights, a book detailing how to locate police radio frequencies, a jar of Vaseline, 2 necklaces later confirmed as belonging to 2 of the victims, and a tape recording of a young woman in obvious distress, screaming and pleading for mercy while being tortured and sexually abused. The mother of Ledford identified the voice on the tape as being that of her only daughter. The voices of the 2 men mocking and threatening Ledford in the process of her torture and abuse were identified as being Roy Norris and Lawrence Whittaker. Also found in Whittaker's motel were 7 bottles of various acidic materials. Investigators would later discover that Whittaker planned to use these acidic materials upon their next victim.
God damn, those zombies are wrong.
Police discovered a bracelet he'd taken from Ledford's body as
Oh my god, I got the reap.
Also found in the homes of both Whittaker and Norris were Polaroid pictures of all
Like I see the one weapon, and then when I see the name,
most of which had apparently been taken at Redondo Beach and Hermosa Beach. Some were also taken at a Burbank high school. Eventually, Norris accepted a plea bargain where he agreed to testify against Whittaker and was subsequently sentenced to life imprisonment on May 7th, 1980, whereas on March 24th, 1981, Lawrence Whittaker was sentenced to death for the 5 murders. Despite being sentenced to
Bitch, I shot you with the whip saw.
incarcerated on death row of natural causes on the 13th of December, 2019, at the age of 79. His partner in crime, Roy Norris, died only 2 months later, also of natural causes. Despite not having the body count of a Ted Bundy or a John Wayne Gacy,
it doesn't take much for you to switch your payments to Square. Sign up in minutes at Square.com. Take a pick of hardware, and find a place for the old stuff. Then you're ready to take payments. It's all pretty fast. Fast like a picture money instantly fast. It's all pretty simple. No long-term contracts or hidden fees. Because when you switch to Square, it doesn't take much.
Oh my god, the midnight. Bro.
Get started free at Square.com.
Like I'm trying to buy ammo. I'm not trying to.
Stitch Fix. It's time to get pieces that fit you. Tell us your style and
Oh my god, bro, like look at that.
looks that fit your taste.
Which one? The
Reaper.
Bloodbeard?
Stitch Fix Freestyle and buy items curated just for you. Shipping and returns are free. Stitch Fix. Take your style.
I literally just got the midnight and the next. I get the Reaper.
or John Wayne Gacy, the Toolbox killers are considered to be some of the most sadistic serial killers to ever exist. In fact, Special FBI agent John E. Douglas described Whittaker as the most disturbing individual for whom he has ever created a criminal profile for. What is considered to be one of the most disturbing aspects of this case is the tape recordings, in particular the recording of Shirley Ledford's torture. The tape is not accessible to the public. However, a brief snippet of the tape was recorded by media as they were outside the courtroom. As the tape was played in the courtroom, the media outside captured the sounds of Burly Ledford screaming, though this is only a brief snippet of the full tape. Interestingly, and rather disturbingly, the audio cassette that Whittaker and Norris created of themselves, humiliating and torturing Ledford, remains in the possession of the FBI Academy. This recording is now used to train and desensitize FBI agents to the raw reality of torture and murder. The contents of the tape are extremely disturbing and graphic. Just to highlight how bad this case was, the chief detective of the case, Paul Bunyan, later went on to kill himself years after Lawrence Whittaker and Roy Norris were sent down. In his suicide note, he outlined that one of his main reasons was his fear of the two killers ever being released from jail.
Wow.
So I can only imagine how bad those tapes are.
That shit horrified him so badly he killed himself.
It's that these tapes never leak, but the fact that these tapes still exist and are in the possession of the FBI, anything is possible. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you can enjoy this sort of content, I just wanted to mix it up for you. This was something completely different for me.
Oh my god.
So I hope you enjoyed it. If you do want more of these sort of top 5
spam,
please let me know, because I will consider them in the future. So yeah,
you got the
let me know what you guys thought of this video. I could have actually made this longer, especially with a couple of the cases, such as the toolbox killers and the Armin Maiwes case, but if I went 100% in depth, this video would probably be 2 hours long.
I went down.
I've tried to keep it bite-sized, but here we are, nearly 45 minutes in. But anyway guys, thank you for the support, it's much appreciated. You guys really keep me going, you give me great motivation, and we are on the verge of hitting 200,000 subscribers. So thank you guys so much for the support. And as always, stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Those whistlings fucking dropped.
You get armor.
With the Wawa app, you get 15 cents off per gallon. Now through June 12th. Gotta have a
ring around the road, bro. Like, yo, he literally dropped and started doing a prayer, bro. The whistling dropped and started doing a prayer to me.
Was a tense scene in the city of Culiacan, Mexico, as a group of officers surrounded a home with their weapons drawn. And that tension was more than justified, as the officers were soon to become part of history, taking down one of the most notorious criminals in the region, a man named Ovidio Guzman Lopez, the son of Joaquin Guzman, also known as El Chapo.
There he is, the man known as El Chapo, finally back in custody. After 13 years on the run since bribing his way out of prison.
Despite his father having been arrested back in 2014, Ovidio was still a free man, continuing his father's legacy by taking a lead role in the cartel. But this day was said to be his last as a free man, as officers prepared to enter the home and detain Ovidio. The sting itself was supposedly set up by the Mexican government as a way to halt the cartel's reign over the region. And for the cops partaking in this daring moment, they were said to be heroes, should it all go off without a hitch. And that day, that's exactly what would happen, as Ovidio was taken into custody and the scene was secured, without a single shot being fired, making what should have been a huge win for the Mexican government, had the story ended there.
The city of Culiacan, Mexico, the historic homeland to the violent Sinaloa drug cartel, turned into a battle zone Thursday.
The city quickly became a war zone, with the cartel sending over 700 armed soldiers in retaliation against the arrest of Ovidio.
all despite the fact that officers had actually made a video call off any such actions by the cartel, as shown in the end of this body cam footage, though they refused to listen. And within hours, the military in the region was completely overwhelmed. With the city in absolute chaos and countless fatalities looming in the distance, the Mexican government would make a shocking decision to allow Ovidio Guzman to walk free. The move was stunning, though it did immediately quell the fighting in the region, and for a moment, all seemed calm, though in the minds of the cartel members, things were nowhere near even. Which brings us back to this video. In it, we see multiple officers taking part in the operation, with the leader of it all being a man named Eduardo. And though these officers likely thought that their actions that day would make them heroes, this decision would instead make them hunted. Just days after the botched arrest, Eduardo would be stalked and confronted by armed members of the cartel, who would open fire in a hailstorm of bullets when the man was in his car. In total, 155 shots were fired at Eduardo, who never stood a chance. And the horrors of this video don't end there, as despite Eduardo being the only officially confirmed death of all of these officers, it has been heavily rumored that in the time since the recording, every single one of the officers seen in this clip have since been killed, as they became the cartel's easiest form of revenge against the police, being picked off one by one to send a message to the whole world. And watching this clip back and seeing just how calm Ovidio was during his arrest, I have to believe that he knew that this was going to happen. And though he was the one being arrested, it really seemed like it was the police that had fallen into his trap, making this yet another example of the disturbed content found across the depths of YouTube. Depths in which today we are yet again diving into, as we look to discover more of YouTube's darkest videos.
To all my friends, I'm glad you came to play. Our fun and learning never ends. Here's what we did today.
I just have a couple questions.
Here we are again, Reed, and there's no place that I'd rather be, because the Christmas spirit here.
Oh my god, I got the Tesla gun.
Nice.
Since its inception, YouTube has been
okay, now we're
launching ground for aspiring performers to have their work noticed by the masses.
I can pack this, right?
Yeah, the Tesla gun, you can pack.
Hundreds of thousands of others who will land well short of achieving that fame. And lost in the crowd of these nameless faces was an aspiring rapper named Math Boy Fly. His real name is Daryl Brooks,
Who names
now
him?
39-year-old man who had spent most of his
Oh yeah,
life
my rapper name's gonna be Math Boy Fly.
At the age of just 17, he would pick up his first felony for battery, and from there he would never really get his life back on track, picking up fresh charges on a regular basis. By 2007, Daryl's life was in a total freefall, as he had become addicted to meth, while picking up his most serious conviction yet for rape against a minor, which not only landed him in prison, but it also landed him on the sex offender registry. Clearly, Daryl was a disturbed man, dealing with some extremely dark personal demons, which just so happened to be captured by a film crew, who at the time were documenting the struggles of meth addiction. The movie's name is Crystal Darkness, and in it we see a short segment showing Daryl in prison, sharing how he had abandoned his kid due to his addiction, while expressing regret that he couldn't give his child a better life.
I got this kid.
The whistlings, bro.
Time, I thought I would just be this wonderful father, just the greatest dad ever. I'm gonna give him everything that I didn't have. But then it's like reality setting in.
In an interview years later, the director of the project, a man named Logan Needham, described Daryl as seemingly genuine in his pursuit to turn his life around, stating, "I felt like he definitely had remorse, and I think he felt bad about the decisions he had made to land him where he was." However, Daryl would never turn this new leaf, and once he was released, his dangerous behavior only got worse, as time and time again he would find himself back behind bars, facing charges like strangulation, domestic abuse, and bail jumping. Though he didn't let these endless legal troubles get in the way of his one true dream, a dream that he believed would finally bring him some semblance of success in this world, with that being to become a famous rapper. And so he took on the nickname now.
Oh, spam! There's a max ammo.
Posting his music to YouTube, where we find what would one day become one of the darkest videos on the site.
I just got to know where.
The ticket. The video features a lot of your standard music video visuals, though ultimately nothing really stands out all that much upon the aside from how bad it sounds. But today, this clip is viewed in a far different manner. Around the time of its release, something was brewing inside of Daryl. His life was at a dead end and he knew it, leading to his violent temper growing worse and worse by the day. In 2020, Daryl would be arrested for firing a shot at his nephew during an argument.
The
Although
fuck?
the bullet thankfully missed the man, Daryl would still be faced with 10 years in prison, as police discovered that the gun he had used was actually stolen, along with a large amount of meth being found in Daryl's pocket, which all culminated into the prospect of a lengthy prison sentence. Though due to issues with the pandemic, Daryl would eventually be allowed to leave police custody, as his bail had been reduced to just $500. Unsurprisingly, this would further enable Daryl's behavior, and the following year he would yet again be arrested. In this particular case, Daryl had been in his car stalking his ex-girlfriend, who was also the mother of his child, before pulling up alongside her and demanding that she get in. Concerned for her safety, the woman refused to enter the car, to which Daryl reacted by running her over. Thankfully, this woman too would survive the ordeal, though shockingly, despite Daryl's constant run-ins with the law, as well as this crime having taken place when he was literally already on bail, he would yet again avoid jail time, as his bail was, in this case, set at just $1,000. Free again, Daryl likely began to think that he was above the law, which paired with his escalating anger would unsurprisingly lead to one more violent outburst. Though what was surprising was just how violent it would be. On November 21st, 2021, days after Daryl's most recent arrest, police would be called to the home of his ex-girlfriend, as they had yet again gotten into another dispute. But this time, before things had gotten too far out of hand, Daryl stormed out, got into his car, and drove away. Though rather than this being some sign of restraint, this was instead seemingly part of a far more malicious decision, leading to one devastating event.
What the fuck? Oh, I seen that video. I remember when that video came out, like,
that day,
publicly.
Daryl Brooks would drive his car directly into the annual Waukesha Christmas Parade at speeds of over 40 miles per hour, driving in a zigzag pattern in an attempt to strike as many people as possible, none of whom Daryl had known personally, as this was simply an act of pure rage. The videos of this event and its aftermath are brutal, and it's something that I'm not allowed to really show here, but in total, 62 people were struck, most of whom were children or senior citizens who were just trying to enjoy this beloved community celebration. And of these victims, sadly, 6 would perish. Following the tragedy, Daryl attempted to flee the area, even begging a stranger to let him into his home and to order him an Uber, which would be caught on a Ring doorbell camera, though he would quickly be captured by police soon after, and is now facing a whopping 77 charges. And despite the leniency he's enjoyed from the court system over the years, will not show him that same type of mercy.
Oh my god, bro. My armor. I lost all my armor. I have to get the hell out of here. Move!
Knowing what Daryl has become, and watching this documentary back with this context, makes it a truly haunting watch, as no one involved, not even Daryl himself, knew just how bad things would one day become. But there is a reason that I mentioned this seemingly obscure music video as being one of the darkest videos on the site, and it's for a reason that is very easy to look right over.
He was playing the song in the car?
I just got a load worth about a half a ticket.
As Daryl is shown rapping in the video, within its background, we can see a red SUV. The same SUV that just a few years later would bring chaos, pain, and despair to a local parade, and ultimately end the lives of so many innocent people.
You've had a great time, haven't we?
That's right. Santa's out there with a lot of cheer and goodwill.
Dogs can have lots of fun together, but sometimes we get angry at our brother.
Our next video takes us all the way around the world to a little-known village in northeastern Somalia called Halam. In October of 2021, a video from the region began circulating across the web, showcasing what appears to be an unremarkable scene playing out, as two men from a village were being interviewed separately. As one of the men is seen talking, a few individuals appear behind him, looking as if they were preparing for some sort of event, or perhaps just doing some farming. Given the language barrier and the lack of translation included, it's impossible to tell what these men are discussing upon an initial watch, and given just how normal it all seems, it offers little reason to be dove into any further, had it not been for two bizarre details. For starters, the thumbnail is quite unusual, as it shows a man who is not featured within the video, tied up and clearly looking upset, while one of the men who is being interviewed is shown standing proudly alongside him. Making things even stranger, the title, which is written in Somali, translates to the fairly disturbing line, "Garo, the killer of his mother, was shot dead today." Despite things appearing unremarkable in the video itself, the thumbnail and the title alone were enough to pique the interest of a select few who just so happened to stumble upon this practically unknown upload. And those who chose to dig any deeper would be greeted with the true horrors of the scene playing out before them. Upon performing a general Google search of the video's title, users will be greeted with a plethora of uploads featuring footage of the same event, one of which even showing footage of the man in the blue shirt tied up with his head down. And the results didn't stop there, as searching the title would also lead to the discovery of a multitude of articles that also depict this very event that we see unfolding, which would ultimately add clarity to the situation, as it was revealed that this bound man shown in the footage and the thumbnail was actually a cold-blooded killer. His name is Farah Mohammed, and during that previous summer, he had apparently fallen into what was described as a drug-fueled rage, which would ultimately end with him taking the life of his very own mother. And to make matters even more tragic, he was one of 7 siblings, meaning that 6 other individuals had lost their mother thanks to this man's disturbed behavior. The case went unnoticed by most outside media outlets, though within this small village, it sent ripples across the community, as his crime was so heinous and his guilt was unquestionable. And with Farah quickly landing in custody, the question was then posed, what do we do with him now? Would prison really be enough of a punishment for this individual, or should he face the death penalty? Ultimately, authorities would leave this decision to the remaining siblings of Farah, who would be tasked with determining his fate. It was from these discussions that Farah's brother, a man named Awai, would come forward with the decision that Farah should suffer the same fate as their mother did, and that he should face execution. Though this wasn't all Awai had to say, as his decision came with an interesting proposal. He wanted to make a spectacle of the execution and send a message all across the region that those who take the lives of their mothers will have their own lives taken in return. And so, to assure that this was seen by the masses, and to prove just how serious Awai was with his message, he would request to be the executioner.
Shit.
So on October 17th, 2021, news cameras gathered in the town as Awai was interviewed in preparation to take the life of his own brother, the killer of his mother. As he's seen here even posing alongside Farah just moments before the execution. The situation is almost impossible for him, and to make things just that much darker, those men seen working in the background of Awai's interview were in fact helping to set up for the event, or at least the aftermath of it, as in actuality, they were quite literally digging Farah's grave right behind his own brother, with Farah watching it all happen just off camera. So in the moments following this footage, Awai was handed a gun, which he would press against the head of his brother Farah, and pull the trigger. Layers to this clip are almost incomprehensible, especially considering how calm everyone seems in the minutes leading to this execution. I mean, even Farah, whose life was soon to end, seemed to show no panic whatsoever, despite his grave literally being dug right before his eyes. Yet no one seemed to show any sort of emotion. It's almost like everyone understood their roles and accepted what needed to be done, leading to this one unconventional, yet almost indescribably disturbing video.
We'll show you how to make all kinds of delicious things to eat.
This video is sponsored by HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a service that sends fresh, pre-portioned ingredients along with delicious recipes directly to your house. These recipes are incredibly diverse, with the chefs over at HelloFresh providing you with great seasonal spring recipes like sweet heat shrimp tempura bowls, garden spinach ricotta ravioli, and one-pot creamy lemon dill chicken soup. On top of all that, these recipes require hardly any prep time at all and make cleanup easier than ever, while also being up to 72% cheaper than dining out at a restaurant. So overall, you're saving a ton of time with cooking alone, and even some money too. But for me, the best part of this service is that I can finally stop worrying about what I'm going to be eating for dinner. I mean, that's something I spend so much time overthinking about, but with HelloFresh, I can avoid that daily dilemma for good, as they offer a whopping 50 weekly meal options that I can select from all in advance. So if this sounds like something you'd be interested in, then head over to HelloFresh.com and use the code Crowley16 to get up to 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts. That is HelloFresh.com, code Crowley16.
If we think about what we like about our brother, we won't say angry very long. I'm glad when friends make up and share a hug.
You know it's God who created these bodies of ours, and it's God who blesses them, and with his help, keep these
Puñeta, bro! My armor! I'm fucking done.
2014, a man named Kevin Bennett approaches a busy intersection on his way to work in the city of Hampton, Missouri. The morning commute had gone just like any other. Typical traffic, fair weather, and on the corner of the intersection, a man was dancing. He was a well-known figure in the area, or at least his performances were, as virtually every morning he would be there, not saying a word, not begging for money, just simply dancing. Like many others, Kevin found the man to be uniquely charming, and so he decided to film that morning's performance and post it to YouTube for others to see. The video was met with over 10,000 views, and even led to a mention in the local news reports, as collectively the community wanted to know who exactly this man was. No one knew it then, but this man's name is actually Seth Herder, and what they were witnessing wasn't some type of light-hearted dance routine, but rather the deterioration of a man's mind, which was playing out in real time.
Hi everyone, my name's Seth Herder.
At the time, Seth was an unemployed man in his late 20s who had been struggling with multiple psychological conditions, leading to his behavior becoming somewhat erratic as time passed. This was cataloged throughout his.
Are you fucking kidding me? I just bought armor for this shit.
Bizarre religious ramblings, claiming that Jesus would soon be returning to Earth alongside intergalactic beings. But sifting through countless posts,
yo, that bitch cannot stop running.
Actually mentioned his daily dance routine on a few separate occasions, referring to it not just as a performance, but also as some sort of religious ritual that he was using to spread his message. And though this message was never expressly stated, most would assume that it was based around the idea of peace, as he would often say things like, "I love all beings forever, and seek never to kill, nor harm, nor destroy any living thing, no tree, nor bird, nor bee, nor dragonfly." However, as time passed, he would slowly drift away from this particular belief. Throughout much of Seth's adult life, he struggled to hold down consistent residency, being evicted time and time again for things such as noise complaints and heavy smoking. And by 2018, Seth had again found himself moving into a brand new apartment, and it was within those walls that his behavior would take a troubling turn.
Yo, there's no way they made it to round 100 in 5 hours.
Complaining about Seth's behavior, stating that he had been seen multiple times running down the hallway over and over again with a katana in his hand. Even more,
there's no way they did it in 5 hours. That is insane.
Apartment building, alone in the dead of night, standing there in complete darkness, brandishing his sword and just dancing alone in the dark for hours and hours on end, with him appearing to be in some sort of trance-like state, completely unresponsive to the world around him. And his behavior didn't stop there, as seemingly out of the blue, Seth began verbally harassing his neighbors, and starting fights over seemingly nothing at all, where he was said to have displayed a genuine and even frightening anger that seemed to be growing more and more uncontrollable. Though it's hard to say for sure what exactly was on Seth's mind during this time, as he had abandoned all of his social media in the years prior, leaving what had once been his daily blog and his Twitter accounts completely dormant, and practically stopping his trail across the entire internet, with the exception of one site.
Yo, I gotta go. I'm being called right now. Let me go. I'll go to the Pack-a-Punch area so you could just spam.
Seth was an avid reviewer across Amazon, leaving his thoughts on the various religious texts and tokens that he had purchased prior to the height of his manic episodes, which is all fine and well, but starting in 2018, his purchases and reviews
Yo, wait, Anthony, can you hear me?
used multiple times across his apartment building, referring to the sword as
amazing,
stating that for $20 it really is an excellent blade. I am very impressed with the quality. The tip was razor sharp. Targets I put it up against. Once again, a great purchase for $20. Very capable of killing. It is a fighting blade for sure.
Hello?
The post was also accompanied
I'm just gonna have to go right here.
with the weapon in his hand.
I need to go AFK.
Definite red flags.
What happened?
We died. I ran out of ammo.
As it turns out, Seth's review was in fact.
I had no more max ammos. I used that. I had no crossbow ammo, no Tesla.
The scene would be discovered days later when maintenance workers
There you
were
go.
confronted with the carnage in the plant, while on the ground was Christopher's lifeless body. Despite an attempt to flee, Seth
Deshaun
was
didn't
caught soon
fucking.
after inflicting this punishment, and later claimed that it was all done in a fit of delusion. With Christopher having unfortunately been caught in this
I'm probably gonna head off right now. I'll probably get back on like in an hour so I can play a bit of a Fortnite, try out the season. I'm gonna get on in like an hour or like in 30 minutes. Alright, I'll see.